Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. I am Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue is on his ones and twos. Fam, I got my Showtime voice going because...
Yeah, it's obnoxious.
Well, there's a show going on right now. There's theater, and we're about to take part in it. The vice presidential debates are about to start with one, Kamala Harris, the cop, and the other, Mike Pence, the theocrat. And in fact, tonight, upstairs... I got Kamala curry going on the stove.
Do not tell me it's Kamala curry or I won't eat it.
Fam, we have to do themed food for the night.
I'm not.
I also got some Mike Pence
sweet
potatoes and onions on the side and white rice.
No wonder I don't like sweet potatoes.
White rice.
And I prefer brown to white.
I know, but Mike Pence, we went with the white rice. So that is the meal for tonight. I also have some ramen noodles for you and some butter lettuce salad. So it's going to be a nice night tonight. We have to get through this. There's only one vice presidential debate, so that's good news right there. We only have to do this one time. But what are we looking for tonight? Let me tell you something. Fam, we know that you can prepare against Kamala Harris. But if you were hired by Kamala Harris's campaign tonight, what would be your advice to her going up against the Mike Pence tonight?
My advice would be, which I think she would be stupid not to do if she's not already going to do it, would be to really, really hone in on the how she plans on protecting women's rights, how she plans on protecting the right to abortion, how she plans on protecting the freedom of choice, how she has moved from her terrible record and rectified her position. That's what I would do if I were her. How she has shifted from the time when she was a prosecutor. But it's really hard to really lie about your record or to completely avoid it, because if there's one thing the Republicans are good at, it's trying to catch people in a lie. Like trying to catch people as hypocrites when it comes to the Democrats, because the Democrats make it really easy for them. The Democrats are a bunch of hypocrites. So it's going to be really easy for Mike Pence to bring up her record, just like Tulsi Gabbard brought up her record, just like Donald Trump brought up Joe Biden's record. Yep. So if I were her, I would stick to, Mike Pence is dangerous. He is a theocrat. We don't want those people, somebody like that, so close to the presidency. Because that is, I agree with that. He is a theocrat, and theocrats should be nowhere near the presidency. When you're putting religion and mixing it with politics, that is as dangerous as a fundamentalist terrorist group over there as it is here. And people need to realize that. So I think that's going to be her strength. I think that's going to be what she's counting on. She's probably also going to bring up COVID. And I think Pence can attack her from the left, or at least from a valid point when it comes to California and how awful California is. Not just criminal justice, but COVID-wise and the homelessness problem. I think they're going to bring that up too.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is I think a lot of the attacks from both sides, Kamala Harris is going to attack Mike Pence for what Donald Trump does, and likewise, Michael Pence is going to go out and attack Kamala for what Joe Biden's history was and his legacy and all the bad policies that follow behind him. However, I think the win or the loss or the upper hand, you want to say, will come on how they attack each other's personal, positions and policies. Now, the problem is Mike Pence was a radio show host who's now the vice president of the United States. He doesn't have a history of policy to really go after. He has a history of things he said. Everything is on record from his radio show. And like you said, the theocratical ways can be attacked. But Kamala Harris has a lot of policies behind her, a lot of rhetoric, a lot of ideology as well, where Mike Pence can go after her. So I think it's going to present itself within the debate. This is one of the particular debates that I think the chances are going to come, and it's up to the opponents to really attack when that person slips. If somebody slips, they go after him. If Pence slips, she goes after him. If Kamala slips, Pence goes after her. It's gonna be an inside debate. In other words, I don't think anything that's planned from your debate prep is really gonna come into play to be a huge attack. You're gonna have weapons, but it's taking that chance and that opportunity when it provides itself.
Andrew Yang said this was gonna be the most watched VP presidential debate. He might have a point, because people think Trump has COVID, Biden is senile to a degree. He's not all there. So whoever becomes president, whoever remains president, there's always a chance of the VP being in charge. I see that more with Biden than with Trump. I don't see Trump as being physically weak, even though he's so unhealthy, so whatever. he looks fine to me after the COVID. I mean, I think people were saying, people wanted him to like die, whatever, but like it's like it was funny, like people were taking bets, but it's I don't think that's happening. No. He got out, he's at home, whatever. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think he actually is okay. Most people don't die from COVID. I mean, it does have like a 2% death rate, not even. So I just I think it's interesting though that people are like, we kind of have to watch this because we don't know if either of them, like either Trump or Biden aren't president, then one of these might be president. And to be honest, I really, 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 really dislike Kamala Harris, but I also am very fearful of a theocrat having that kind of power. Yeah. So,
and a lot of people think that Kamala Harris is the chosen one. That she's going to be the one calling the shots, right? Yeah. I mean, this is where it's coming from. So that's why this will be the most watched vice presidential debate in a long time. The one vice presidential debate that I really took a lot of stock in was Joe Biden versus Paul Ryan. Mm-hmm. And that was a really good debate. That's when Joe Biden had a lot more faculties than he did right now. And that's when you heard, that's a bunch of malarkey. That's a bunch of malarkey. And, I thought Joe Biden did really well in that debate and won that debate. It's a little bit different right now. I mean, now he just looks lost out there. And I don't like Kamala Harris by any means, but she's a sharp woman, and she's a sharp senator, and she can get in there and do some piercing damage to Mike Pence if she plays this right. Like I said, once he slips on a situation, if she can piggyback off something he says and then turn it into the disastrous work of the coronavirus that Donald Trump has given us, which has given us crapola. A lot of people are very critical about him. Then she could really score some brownie points there.
It's really sad that in all these discussions, there's not going to be that much policy at all for Americans. I mean, it's just, you're not going to get that from the theocrat Mike Pence, and you're not going to get honesty from Kamala Harris, Miss Top Cop prosecutor. You're just not going to get that. So it's really sad that the American people, once again, aren't going to win in this debate. I don't really know if there is going to be a winner, but it's just really sad that we're not discussing policy. I would have loved to see somebody more like a Tulsi Gabbard go after Kamala Harris, because we know how that worked out, because she called her out on a lot of crap policy wise. And the thing with Kamala Harris is I feel like she's a really bad actress. Like, I feel like she gets really worked up when something happens, and you can see it in her face. Yeah. So I kind of expect that to happen tonight.
Johnny, you got your video ready? Let us know when. Octavia Vasquez Bay, you're just making me laugh because of her shaking her head no. Yeah. Octavio, thank you so much. Vegan Power 2020, baby. Yeah. You better believe it. Have vegan cooking up on the stove right now. Can't wait. Oh, man, this debate. May the Schwartz be with you from Spaceballs. That's Steve Woolbrand. You guys ever seen Spaceballs?
A while ago.
I see your Schwartz is as big as mine. It was a great movie. It was like a crazy slapstick movie making fun of Star Wars and all the Star Wars. There wasn't Yoda. There was yogurt. Yeah. And it was Lord Helmet played by Rick
Monty
Moranis.
Python.
Well, it was kind of in that genre. Like, it's the airplanes, the Monty Pythons. Monty Python's The Life of Brian is the best one. What's your name? Brian. Brian what? Brian Cohen. Come on in.
Come on in.
Come on in. What have the Romans ever done for us, Fiorella?
Nothing.
And then they all start saying, sanitation, healthcare, education. Besides sanitation, healthcare, working government, blah, 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 blah. What have the Romans ever done for us?
Did you eat something else today?
No, I didn't. I tasted a little bit of that Kamala curry, and it's got me sweating and stuff. But listen, I think I can tell you one debate when it came to Joe Biden and Sarah Palin. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden was very much walking on pins and needles because he didn't want to come off as being overbearing on Sarah Palin, being that she was a woman, and she came out to try to make it like a normal thing. She's like, can I call you Joe? It was the first thing she said over there. And, it was a really weird debate, but you could see Joe Biden was holding back. Yeah. He wasn't going for the jugular. I don't know if you'll see Mike Pence hold back right now. I don't think you'll see that right now. I think that Kamala Harris has a record that Pence will go in there and he'll be lethal if he gets the opportunity. Remember, I said of the four people that had the debate, Pence has got the best skills, I think.
It probably comes from his years, as you said, a radio host.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're a radio host, you know, you can just talk and whatever. Like, he's going to, That's definitely a one-up on Kamala. But another thing she can go after him is his homophobia, which is she's a senator from California. You know, she's been on the L Word. She's been featured on the L Word. I mean, it's all these things that she can literally, socially, identity politics-wise, she definitely has the upper hand on him. So
the only thing he's got going for them is, even though and that's the whole thing. I hope if you're Kamala's camp, you have better have people sat down on his radio show and recorded when he said stuff, have that stuff clipped out and put out there.
I have
when
a
it's
feeling
ready.
that didn't happen.
If that didn't happen, you're really not doing yourself any service, because you could probably get clips of him being anti-gay of sorts, or pushing that level, or about the, Roe v. versus Wade. I mean, she had the T-shirts ready. That little girl was me. If she was smart.
That's another hypocritical thing, too, that he can bring up. By the way, the K-Hive were too busy going after Bernie supporters, progressives, and everybody who's saying they're not going to vote for Joe Biden on Twitter to actually do any work for Kamala Harris. I mean, they have been vile. They literally got people kicked out of Twitter by storming them. They have been pretty vicious online. But I don't think that's going to translate to being vicious on the debate floor. So we'll see. I'm not a fan of the K-Hub.
Steve Wolbrand put up another one. I don't know what this one is. It's Biggest Dickus. He's a friend of mine. What's that from? Is that from Spaceballs? I don't even remember if that was Spaceballs, man. Biggest Dickus. I don't know, but that's
Tookus.
Biggest Dickus. Biggest Dickus. What was the Seymour Butts? Seymour Butts.
Fam, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Do we have? Oh, there it is.
Here it is. But this is the face that we were talking about, that she got slayed, and she showed it all over her face.
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who are on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Senator Harris.
Johnny, I'm a top tier candidate, and I can survive that. So I know people are going to come after me. That was so that was so classic. I will never forget that. One of the greatest moments in politics on debate stages. She went right after her.
It was beautiful.
And took it down. And you could just see Kamala's face, how am I getting attacked like this? Establishment protected me. Go to a commercial break. You could almost see the same look in Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren's face turned white. Tulsi Gabbard went after her, and it was well, hold that thought right now. We're going to go to a commercial break. We'll be right back. And then all of a sudden you can see the...
Tulsi, the establishment Dem slayer. I mean, those were great moments. That was actually the entertaining moments, and very boring session of debates we had where there was just way too many candidates.
Yeah. But a blueprint. A blueprint to go after her on her policies.
Yeah.
A blueprint. Remember the guy who was on RT from the Durham? What really impressed me was that she did the research on Kamala Harris.
Yeah, Tulsi really killed it on there with Kamala Harris, and I think it's really, it's something that people aren't going to forget, and it brought up a lot of attention on her record. Of course, people in California, a lot of them knew her record. They knew, especially people of color in California knew her record.
So look them up.
But it's the fact that other people in the rest of the country, she had been doing actually pretty well. She had been perceived as doing, being a decent candidate, and
it was a strong woman of color. Let's do this.
And then just everything dismantled in front of everybody. It was such a sweet moment, specifically because because her record is horrible. I mean, we can even go over some of it right now. I mean, what Tulsi was going after her was the marijuana situation, where she jailed Black people and brown people and all kinds of poor people for marijuana. But it was specifically, of course, it's ironic because she frames herself as this, this woman of color, yet she jailed so many people for low-level offenses in marijuana.
Yeah.
Also, she refused to prosecute Steve Mnuchin.
Yep.
And then she also refused to prosecute pedophiles during the time when the Catholic Church had so many. And she also refused to pardon the sentence of a death row inmate who was actually not guilty of the crime. I mean, these are very vicious things. This is blood on her hands that she has. This is it.
She withheld DNA evidence until the courts made her release it and stuff. You know, she threatened truancy.
She was also for 3 strikes policies.
She was awful. I mean, she just had an awful record. And even so much in that case, when you talk about his name, I believe it was George Gage in Pasadena. They went to the appellate case, and it was the 3 judges, and they were telling Kamala's offices, like, listen, your job is not to get convictions. It's to uphold justice.
Right.
And this is a situation. Please go back to your office and reverse this decision over here.
But her job is to get convictions. That's the thing. They make a business out of it. The prosecutors have to get a certain amount of convictions. That's what the prison system has become, a business. It's no longer about valuing human life or justice or fairness. Just like they got to meet a quota, just like the cops have to meet a quota. They got to meet a quota too.
And the bail business too. You know, everybody gets their money. They get the chunk of your money. You never get that money back. You put up your bail for your bond, and you don't get it back. Go ahead.
How are we running a VP that is a self-described top cop who worked with police, who actually got so many donations from law enforcement? How do we have her, a prosecutor, while there is an uprising of mass protests in the streets right now for Black Lives Matter, against police brutality, against an unjust criminal justice system?
I'll give you
How
the answer.
the hell did the Democrats nominate Mr. I worked with segregationists and I wrote the crime bill Joe with Top Cop Harris, and think that they're not going to get called out on their racism and their horrible record? I mean, this is just...
Yeah. Well, that's the problem. People don't respond to and look into policy or anything like that. They really don't pay attention to it. They pay attention to rhetoric and what's said on their mainstream media, who prop these people up while keeping other voices down. So about 75 to 80% of the electorate is probably just reacting on emotion alone. That's why we can't get anything done right now, and we're so polarized that one side looks at the other and just demonizes the other and goes back and forth, and nothing's talked about, nothing's talked through. I always said that politics isn't about mitigating damage. That's the last part. You got to mitigate damage. It's about compensating with the person on the other side who disagrees with you to come to a conclusion that you both can live with. But when you demonize the other person over the other side, they demonize you, nothing gets done, and all you're doing is mitigating damage while you're just completely just casting aspersions on the other side. And that's all they're doing.
Do you really think we're so polarized, or do you think the system is both, I mean, going towards fascism? You can talk about the Democratic Party and the Lincoln Project and all these things. That is just, to me, it's all the same. It's just different forms of it.
Yeah,
It's different forms of fascism right now. A lot of people right now on my Facebook have been cheering for the censorship of QAnon. I can't stand QAnon. I think a lot of 90% of what they say or more is entirely false. There's some snippets of truth that are wrapped up in a lot of falseness.
Yeah.
Is it doing a disservice? Perhaps. But how are you going to prove that they're so horrible if you're censoring them?
Yeah.
And then how are you going to stop that censorship from coming back and biting you in the ass at some point? Because it's already bitten a lot of us in the independent media, especially on the left. You think you're going after the right, but really, it comes back and haunts the left, because we are the voices that are silenced. Because
that's the thing is that the virtue cloak is where, again, what's not. It seems like it's a good thing. Like we're shutting down false information and bad information that's racist, that's biased. Right. We have to get rid of it. Just like the ballot harvesting, it seems like it's a good idea to pick up ballots and take them over there, whatnot. It seems like it's a good thing, but you have to think more in a nuanced manner, because if you go down these rabbit holes,
logic, not emotion.
Well, yeah, completely on logic, because what can it lead to? What could it end to? With ballot harvesting, what could it lead to? With censorship, what could it lead to? You know what I'm saying? You can, as bad as the language may sound, if they're not going out and telling somebody to kill somebody, you know what I'm saying? If they're not telling anybody to commit murder or not like that, then that's pretty much game to let it go and let the people decide what's the truth and what's not the truth.
They're fake. Let people decide, because if you hide it, it's only going to make it's only going to pretty much uphold what they're saying, and it's only going to bring more attention to them.
It seems like just surface level decisions, like what,
Yeah.
right? Very impulsive, very reactionary. Let me make this decision because I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But you haven't thought it through and think about what could come of it, and what bleeds out of that.
And
censorship, you're just opening up a whole can of shit.
Was it Ben Franklin that said that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said those who, I believe he said those who want to give up a little.
No, he was like, I don't have to agree with. I may not agree with what you say, but you damn have the right to say it, or something along those lines.
But he also said something about those who don't agree with freedom of speech to get themselves a little temporary protection deserve neither freedom of speech or protection themselves.
Yeah.
Something
right.
like that.
Yeah.
But he was kind of referring to that. You know what I'm saying?
And it's really interesting that I'm seeing a lot of cheer for censorship, as I am seeing very little attention put on Julian Assange and what's going on right now, and how that trial is just such a kangaroo trial.
Yeah.
It's so awful. People don't care because it's over there. It's a guy that's not even American, but it's a guy that's not even American, and we're trying to incriminate a journalist for doing his job. So I'm scared as a journalist, and I'm scared of somebody in media, because now we're cheering for censorship. Tomorrow the Democratic establishment could be like the Convo Couch is spewing lies,
which they're already doing.
They're already doing it.
Russiagate
was a conspiracy theory, so if you have a problem with QAnon, you should also have
MSNBC
a problem
should be
with
taken down.
Taking down MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, CNN, and every other pundit in these elitist propagandists, propaganda machines. You should also want them to be taken down then. If you're going to be for censorship, you see, it's a slippery slope. So Russiagate, of course, the CIA declassified documents showing that Hillary Clinton and the Clintons in general, Obama, knew that it was fake, and they still went on it. Yep. So now what can Trump do? He can use that against them.
Yep.
This is
he said he has it all documented on the stage the other day. He goes, they tried to do it, and it's all documented. It's no lie, and Obama knew about it. Robbie Mook and his goons, they did this thing. It's just disgusting. By the way, Robbie Mook is a mook. Actually, Robbie Mook is not a mook. He's very smart. He's very sinister. Joe Biden, total mook. Fee was quoting Voltaire. And somebody also put up, I saw it over here. It says those who want to give up, those who want to give up a little freedom. Actually, it's those who wish to give up freedom for a little security deserve neither freedom or security themselves. That's what it is.
Yep.
That's what it is. If you want to give up, if you want to give up a little freedom for for a little security, what security are we having by we take it down? What is it really doing for us? What security is there? In the name of, what do they say? In the name of what? National security. We're taking down QAnon. What is it?
In the name of national security, we are also trying to extradite Julian Assange for literally telling you that the government lied to you, killed a lot of people, a lot of innocent people, and it's all in the name of security. That's their go-to. That's what they always use for whatever reason that they want to use. So it's really dangerous. People think that Donald Trump brought in fascism. The crypto-fascism has been encroaching on us for a while, for decades now. And so what I see on the Democratic establishment is they love censorship. They love to kind of encroach on people's freedoms that way, which in turn makes some on the right, although hypocritically so, many of them, to be like, well, what about my freedoms and blah, blah, blah. But then they move towards fascism. The Democratic Party is literally pushing people towards fascism because they're not providing an alternative for a very vulnerable and working class population to go to. Yeah. There is no opposition party. It is all one thing. So truth. We are essentially already living in a fascist society. Don't for a second think that Joe Biden, who's a very good friend of Bernie, is not a fascist. And don't think for a second that Trump is also doing that, but in a different way. But it's still the same thing. It is still very authoritarian. It is still very dangerous, and it is still something we should be rejecting on both ends. This is a mockery what we're watching
and
right
they
now.
did break antitrust laws. They hid behind a provision that they are a platform and not a publisher, and by doing so, they have to provide fair and equal balance and coverage for everybody else. But
they don't.
They don't. They hide behind that so they can't get sued. Right. And meanwhile, they're acting completely as a publisher. So I love all you neoliberal establishment little lackeys who are saying it's a private company. Like literally, I got that on my Facebook today. I was like, you know who said that to me? Kamala Harris. She goes, it's a private company and they have no right to badger a witness. Come on. badger a witness saying the witness is stupid. That's not badgering a witness. It's disgusting. And it's really a shame that the left cares less about civil liberties and freedom of speech than the right nowadays. Politic-wise. And the fact that a lot of these neo-progressives are falling right in line with this shit. You goddamn Bernie supporters that are falling for this crap for Biden. And the whole...
shots fired, Pasta.
Yeah. Well, this whole other thing that, like, I'm stopping racism, I'm voting for Biden. I'm like, fascism and racism. I'm like, do you know that he supported a regime change where he supported actual neo-Nazis?
They don't pay attention.
The Azov Battalion in Ukraine. They make the Proud Boys look like Cub Scouts, Bernie fans. That's who Joe Biden supported and gave the thumbs up to for regime change.
It's all finally coming out. But now it's being told it's a right-wing talking point.
Oh,
no,
really?
it's history. You guys can look it up.
It's already been debunked. By who? MSNBC? I mean, we were talking about this crap a long time ago.
Yeah, we were. You guys can look it up. We were talking about Burisma for
except the Moscow mayor. I didn't know about that stuff. That's all new stuff. I didn't know. And they got those wire transfers. I'm sorry, Hunter Biden. No, that's all new stuff, fam. I didn't know that until that recently came out. Like, I knew about the Chinese stuff. I knew about the Ukraine stuff. I knew about Hunter Biden and Burisma. But I didn't know about these wire transfers.
Why didn't I bring tequila? I'm just really upset now.
We don't have tequila. We have mezcal.
Damn it.
It's vegan.
Tequila is vegan too.
I know.
Unless there's worms in it, which sometimes there is, and that's the best tequila, by the way. Poor worms. Oh, Johnny, do you have that? Can you pull up the Kamala question? Okay. Yeah, because I want to show people what we asked her.
You once recently said that Donald Trump should have his Twitter suspended.
I did.
Isn't that a cause for concern for people who really are big on the First Amendment rights and our civil liberties?
You don't have a First Amendment right to threaten a witness. And, you can ask the families of the whistleblower. You can ask the families of the people who have been on the receiving end of Donald Trump's threats. And you will know that this is a matter of their safety. It is a matter of very serious threats to their safety, to their livelihood. It is also about clearly what Donald Trump tries to do with the microphone that has been given to him by the American people, which is to intimidate and to try and beat down people. And yeah, absolutely. And it's a private corporation, and they have terms of use, and private corporations should be held accountable. So yeah, I don't back off of that at all.
So not only did she threaten to say that she's for censorship and whatnot, but she's also threatened the corporations. They better do what they're told to do. You know what I'm saying? Or they can be held liable as well. I mean, that's ridiculous. You don't have
that's the state for controlling that, and that could come back and bite us in the ass. 1984 style. I mean, that is people. Oh, it sounds good, right? But you have to dig a little bit deeper. You have to understand. Donald Trump may be vile, he may be hateful, he may say all these things that are fomenting all these terrible things that are happening. But this country was founded on freedom of speech. And those rights are already under trouble when we're going outside and we're filming these protests. We're seeing journalists get attacked. We're seeing protesters be arrested and charged with felonies, 20 years. For what? For protesting. So you think that has nothing to do with that? It has everything to do with that, because if they can say that censor you on your freedom of speech in that way, that also incorporates everything else, and you end up losing out on that end as well. And that is it sets a very dangerous precedent.
There we go.
Entirely.
This 90-minute debate will be divided into 9 segments of about 10 minutes each. I'll begin a segment by posing a question to each of you, sometimes the same question, sometimes a different question on the same topic. You will then have 2 minutes to answer without interruption by me or the other candidate. Then we'll take 6 minutes or so to discuss the issue. At that point, although there will always be more to say, we'll move on to the next topic. We want a debate that is lively, but Americans also deserve a discussion that is civil. These are tumultuous times, but we can and will have a respectful exchange about the big issues facing our nation.
Are they going to be more respectful?
Let's begin with the ongoing pandemic that has cost our country so much.
We have to talk.
Senator Harris, the coronavirus is not under control. Over the past week, Johns Hopkins reports that 39 states have had more COVID cases over the past 7 days than in the week before. 9 states have set new records. Even if a vaccine is released soon, the next administration will face hard choices. What would a Biden administration do in January and February that a Trump administration wouldn't do? Would you impose new lockdowns for businesses and schools and hotspots? A federal mandate to wear masks? You have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Thank you, Susan. Well, the American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country. And here are the facts. 210,000 dead people in our country in just the last several months. Over 7 million people who have contracted this disease.
Yep.
1 in 5 businesses closed. We're looking at frontline workers who have been treated like sacrificial workers. We are looking at over 30 million people who in the last several months had to file for unemployment. And here's the thing. On January 28th, the vice president and the president were informed about the nature of this pandemic. They were informed that it's lethal in consequence, that it is airborne, that it will affect young people, and that it would be contracted because it is airborne.
What would you do?
And they knew what was happening, and they didn't tell you. Can you imagine if you knew on January 28th, as opposed to March 13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare? They knew and they covered it up. The president said it was a hoax. They minimized the seriousness of it. The president said, you're on one side of his ledger if you wear a mask, you're on the other side of his ledger if you don't. And
I mean,
in spite of all of that, today they still don't have a plan. They still don't have a plan. Well, Joe Biden does. And our plan is about what we need to do around a national strategy for contact tracing, for testing, for administration of the vaccine, and making sure that it will be free for all. That is the plan that Joe Biden has and that I have, knowing that we have to get a hold of what has been going on, and we need to save our country. And Joe Biden is the best leader to do that. And frankly, this administration has forfeited their right to re-election based on this.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, more than 210,000 Americans have died of COVID-19 since February.
Crappy.
The U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population is higher than that of almost every other wealthy nation on earth. For instance, our death rate is 2.5 times that of Canada next door. You head the administration's coronavirus task force. Why is the U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population higher than that of almost every other wealthy country? And you have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Susan, thank you. And I want to thank the Commission and the University of Utah for hosting this event. And Senator Harris, it's a privilege to be on the stage with you. Our nation has gone through a very challenging time this year. But I want the American people to know that from the very first day, President Donald Trump has put the health of America first. Before there were more than 5 cases in the United States, all people who had returned from China.
Oh, God.
President Donald Trump did what no other American president had ever done. And that was he suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world.
I mean, he did.
Now, Senator Joe Biden opposed that decision. He said it was xenophobic and hysterical.
I'll give him that point.
But I can tell you, having led the White House Coronavirus Task Force, that decision alone by President Trump bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. And I believe it saved hundreds of thousands of American lives. Because with that time, we were able to reinvent testing. More than 115 million tests have been done to date. We were able to see to the delivery of billions of supplies so our doctors and nurses had the resources and support they needed.
They literally
did
not have the resources.
And we began really before the month of February was out to develop a vaccine and to develop medicines and therapeutics that have been saving lives all along the way. And under President Trump's leadership, Operation Warp Speed, we believe we'll have literally tens of millions of doses of a vaccine before the end of this year. The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine. It looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about. I think the American people know that this is a president who has put America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart,
he went right after him.
Can be proud of the sacrifices they have made. It's saved countless American lives.
That's a bunch of
Senator
malarkey.
Harris.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
Absolutely. Whatever the vice president is claiming the administration has done, clearly it hasn't worked. When you're looking at over 210,000 dead bodies in our country, American lives that have been lost, families that are grieving that loss. And you know, the vice president is the head of the task force and knew on January 28th how serious this was. And then thanks to Bob Woodward,
Nice little attack.
we learned that they knew about it. And then when that was exposed,
Yeah, they're still harping on this.
the
shit.
vice president
What are
said,
we,
when asked,
what are you gonna do?
well, why didn't y'all tell anybody? He said, because the president
solutions.
wanted people to remain calm.
Well, let's get
No, but Susan, this is important.
Susan, I
and I
have
want to
to
add,
weigh
but
in
if,
here.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I have to
I'm
weigh in.
speaking.
Yeah, you
So
can have
I
15 more
wanna-
seconds, and then we'll give the vice president
Thank
a
you.
chance to
So I
respond.
want to ask the American people, how calm were you when you were panicked about where you're going to get your next roll of toilet paper? How calm were you when your kids were sent home from school and you didn't know when they could go back? How calm
Thank
were
you.
you
Thank
when
you,
your
Senator
children
Harris.
couldn't see your parents because you were afraid they could kill them?
Let's give Vice President Pence a chance to respond. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute to
You
respond.
know, there's not a day gone by that I haven't thought of every American family that's lost a loved one.
So good. That's so
And
good.
I want all of you to know that you'll always be in our
Families
hearts
on one day by.
and in our prayers.
God, these people are psychopaths.
But when you say what the American people have done over these last 8 months hasn't worked, that's a great disservice to the sacrifices the American people have made.
I'm referring
The
to
reality,
the
if I may finish, Senator, the reality is Dr. Fauci said everything that he told the president in the Oval Office, the president told the American people. Now, President Trump, I will tell you, has boundless confidence in the American people, and he always spoke with confidence that we'd get through this together. But when you say it hasn't worked, when Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and our medical experts came to us in the second week of March, they said if the president didn't take the unprecedented step of shutting down roughly half of the American economy, that we could lose 2.2 million Americans. Now, that's the reality.
Thank you.
They also
Thank you,
said
Vice
to us if
President
we did
Pence.
everything right, Susan, we could still lose more than 200,000 Americans.
Vice President
Now, one
Pence.
life lost is
Thank
too
you.
many, Susan. But
Susan.
the American
Too
people,
many,
I
Susan.
believe, deserve
Hey,
credit
Susan.
for the sacrifices that they have made, putting the health of their family and their neighbors first, our doctors, our nurses, our first
Thank you, Vice
responders.
President Pence.
And I'm going to speak up on behalf of what the American people have done.
Vice President Pence, you were in
a
the front
seasoned
row
debater.
in a Rose Garden
He's
event
so
11 days ago.
soft-spoken, he
What
doesn't
seems
get
to have
in
been
there,
a
though.
super spreader event for senior administration and congressional officials. No social distancing, few masks, and now a cluster of coronavirus cases among those who were there. How can you expect Americans to follow the administration's safety guidelines to protect themselves from COVID when you at the White House have not been doing so?
Damn.
Well, the American people have demonstrated over the last 8
Tiny, can you
months
get me off screen real quick?
that when given the facts, they're willing to put the health of their families and their neighbors and people they don't even know first. And President Trump and I have great confidence in the American people and their ability to take that information and put it into practice. In the height of the epidemic, when we were losing a heartbreaking number of 2,500 Americans a day, we surged resources to New Jersey and New York and New Orleans and Detroit. We told the American people what needed to be done, and the American people made the sacrifices. When the outbreak in the Sun Belt happened this summer, again, Americans stepped forward. But the reality is the work of the President of the United States goes on. A vacancy on the Supreme Court of the United States has come upon us, and the President introduced Judge Amy Coney
Yes,
Barrett.
thank you. Thank you, Vice
But
President
at
Pence.
that, if I may say, that Rose Garden event, there's been a great deal of speculation about it. My wife Karen and I were there and honored to be there. Many of the people who were at that event, Susan, actually were tested for coronavirus. And it was an outdoor event, which
I bet
all
Karen
of our
is such a
scientists
Karen.
regularly and routinely advise. The difference here is President Trump and I trust the American people to make choices in the best interest of their health.
I mean,
Joe Biden
that's
and
not a
Kamala
bad
Harris
point, but
consistently talk about mandates, and not just mandates with the coronavirus, but
For the
a government takeover of health care,
Thank you. Thank
the
you,
Green
Vice
New
President Pence.
Deal, all government control. We're about freedom and respecting the freedom
Oh, yeah,
of the
he's
American
playing
people.
to his base right
Let's
now.
talk about respecting the American people. You respect the American people when you tell them the truth. You respect the American people when you have
Something
the
Democrats
courage
haven't
Which
done
we
either.
to be a
always
leader,
done.
speaking of those things that you may not want people to hear, but they need to hear so they can protect themselves. But this administration stood on information that if you had as a parent, if you had as a worker, knowing you didn't have enough money saved up, and now you're standing in a food line because of the ineptitude of an administration that was unwilling to speak the truth to the American people. So let's talk about caring about the American people. The American people have had to sacrifice far too much because of the incompetence of this administration.
Plagiarism
It is
is
asking
something
too
Biden
much
knew
of the
about.
people.
Susan, we talked
That
about
Vice
it is
President
asking too much of the people. That they would not be equipped with the information they need to help themselves to protect
Susan,
their
the
parents
President-
and
No,
their
I'm sorry.
children.
Kamala Harris, Senator Harris, I'm sorry.
It's
I
fine,
meant
I'm
to say-
Kamala.
No, you're Senator Harris to me. For life to get back to normal, Dr. Anthony Fauci and other experts say that most of the people who can be vaccinated
They've entirely
need to be vaccinated.
politicized COVID,
But half
but
of
it's
Americans now
science.
say they wouldn't take a vaccine if it was released now. If
shouldn't
the
be
Trump
politicized.
administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
What a
Vice President Pence, there have been a lot of
So
repercussions
stupid.
from this
So stupid.
pandemic. In recent days, the
Science
president's
doesn't care if you
diagnosis
like
of
Trump or not.
COVID-19 has underscored
Like,
the
literally,
importance
science doesn't give a fuck.
of the job
Be
that you
anti-Trump. That's what
hold
she's saying. Just
and
be
that you are
anti-Trump,
seeking.
Just be anti-Trump.
That's our second topic
all they
tonight.
can be.
It's the role of the vice president. One of you will make history on January 20th. You will be the vice president to the oldest president the United States has ever had. Donald Trump will be 74 years old on Inauguration Day. Joe Biden will be 78 years old. That already has raised
That's a bunch
concerns
of
among
malarkey.
some voters, concerns that have been
That's a bunch of
sharpened
malarkey.
by President Trump's
golfing,
hospitalization
Johnny.
in recent days. Vice President Pence, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with President Trump about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes without interruption.
Well, Susan, thank you, although I would like to go back.
Oh,
I
gosh.
think we need to move on
well,
to the
thank
issue
you,
of
but I would like to
vice
go back
presidency.
because the reality is that we're going to have a vaccine, Senator, in record time, in unheard of time, in less than a year.
True, they already have a vaccine.
We have 5 companies in phase 3 clinical trials, and we're right now producing tens of millions of doses. So the fact that you continue to undermine public confidence in a vaccine, if the vaccine emerges during the Trump administration, I think is unconscionable. And Senator, I just ask you, stop playing politics with people's lives. The reality
shit.
is that we
I had to
will
give
have a
him a thumbs
vaccine,
up
we
for that
believe,
one.
before the end of this year.
Exactly what she's
And
doing.
it will have the capacity to save countless American lives. And your continuous undermining of confidence in a vaccine is just, it's just unacceptable. And let me also say, you know, the reality is when you talk about failure in this administration, we actually do know what failure looks like in a pandemic. It was 2009. The swine flu arrived in the United States. Thankfully, it ended up not being as lethal as the coronavirus. But before the end of the year, when Joe
he's so
Biden was vice president of
soft-spoken.
the United States, not 7.5 million
creepy.
people contracted the swine flu. 60 million Americans contracted the swine flu. If the swine flu had been as lethal as the coronavirus, in 2009, when Joe Biden was vice president, we would have lost 2 million American lives. His own chief of staff, Ron Klain, would say last year that it was pure luck that they did, quote, everything possible wrong. And we learned from that.
Her
They left
nervous
the
pig is
strategic
smiling
national
all the time.
stockpile empty. They left an empty and hollow plan, but we
Thank you,
still
Vice
learned
President
from it.
Pence.
And I think
Vice
the
President
American
Pence, your time
people,
is
I'm going
up.
to say again, can be proud
Vice President Pence, I'm sorry,
of
your
what
time
we
is
have
up.
done.
Again?
And Senator, please
Thank you, Vice
stop
President
undermining
Pence.
confidence
Susan.
in a vaccine.
Thank you, Susan.
Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I
She's gonna
asked
go back.
Vice President Pence, which is, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with Vice President Biden about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not,
No.
and if you win the election next month, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
No.
So let me tell you, first of all, the day I got the call from Joe Biden, it was actually a Zoom call, asking me to serve with him on this ticket was probably one of the most memorable days of my life.
Right after I was that girl and I had
thought
all the
about my
t-shirts
mother,
and
That
shit.
girl.
who came to the
I
United
was
States
that
at the
little
age of
girl.
19,
Here's she doing.
gave birth to me at the age of 25 at Kaiser Hospital in Oakland, California. And the thought that I'd be sitting here right now, I know would make her proud, and she must be looking down on this. Joe and I were raised in a very similar way. We were raised with values that are about
Yes.
hard work,
I was a girl on the bus.
about
That little
the
girl
value
was
and the
in-
dignity
he
of
was
public
bussing me.
service, and about
He
the
refused to
importance
bus me.
of fighting for
How
the
stupid
dignity
is
of
it they
all
made a blue
people.
on
And I
top of a
think
black
Joe
shirt?
asked me to serve with him because, I have a career that
supposed to
included
be purple.
being elected the first woman district attorney of San Francisco,
Outline it then.
where I created models of
That little girl
innovation
was
for
me.
law enforcement in
Top
terms
Cop
of reform of the criminal
Kamala.
justice system. I was
Yeah,
elected
girl.
the first
She have a top
woman
policy?
of color and black woman to be
Nope.
elected Attorney General of the state of California,
Identity
where I ran
politics
the second
side.
largest
You did a bad
Department of
job.
Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice.
Ooh.
And there I took on
Congratulations
everything from transnational
having a
criminal
woman of color.
organizations to the big banks that were taking advantage
jails
of
people
homeowners
of color.
to
The big banks that
for-profit
were taking
colleges that
advantage that
were
she let
taking
Mnuchin
advantage
go.
of veterans. And then, of course, now I serve in the United States Senate as only the second black woman ever elected to the United States Senate. I
cares?
serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee, where I've been in regular receipt of classified information about threats to our nation and hotspots around the world. I've traveled the world.
Red
I've
Hampton
met
color of
with our
black
soldiers
imperials.
in war zones. And I think Joe has asked me to serve with him because he knows that we share a
values.
purpose, which is about lifting up the American people. And after the 4 years that we
claiming
have
my
seen of
time.
Donald Trump unifying our country around our common values and principles.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Neither President Trump nor Vice President Biden has released a sort of detailed health information that had become the modern norm until the 2016 election. And in recent days, President Trump's doctors have given misleading answers or refused to answer basic questions about his health. And my question to each of you in turn is this information voters deserve to know?
Who cares?
Vice
This
President
this
Pence, would you
debate
like
is
to go
so
first?
boring because of the questions.
Well,
right
Yeah.
Susan, thank you. And
Susan, thank you.
And let me say, on behalf of the president and the first lady, how moved we've all been
Johnny, can
by
you
the
give me a
outpouring
little bit
of
more?
prayers and concern
It's hard to
for the
hear.
president. And I do believe it's emblematic of the prayers and the concern that have ushered forth for every American
Emblematic
impacted
of the prayers.
by the
God,
coronavirus.
you guys are
Theocrat,
But
do
the
a
care the
shot.
president received
Oh God,
at
where's my
Walter Reed
Do a
Hospital,
shot.
my-
He said of
the White House
prayers.
doctors, was
Right.
exceptional.
guys? I need to.
And the transparency that they
Drink
practiced
something
all
to
along
survive.
the
I
way
can't
will
do this.
continue. The American people have a right to know about the health and well-being of their president, and will continue to do that. But I'm just extremely grateful, and was more than a little moved by the broad and bipartisan support. And Senator, I want to thank you and Joe Biden for your expressions, genuine concern.
Oh
And
my
I also wanna
God! Oh my
congratulate
God!
you,
This has got to be the worst
as I
moment
did on that phone
ever
call.
right now. Like
On the historic nature of your nomination.
you guys, I hate you.
I
but thank you
never
so
expected to
much for your
be
thoughts
on
and
this stage
prayers.
4 years ago, so I know the
Civility.
feeling.
It's the civility
but,
bullshit.
The reality is,
God, it's
we've
so
got an
fake.
election before the American people in the midst of
So
this
fake.
challenging year. And the stakes have never been higher,
Thank
but I think the
Thank
choice
Vice
has never
President
been
Pence.
clearer.
I want to give Senator Harris a chance to respond to the same question I asked, which is, do voters have a right to know more detailed health information about presidential candidates, and
questions
especially about
suck.
presidents,
is
especially
boring.
when they're facing some kind of challenge?
Absolutely, and that's why Joe Biden has been so incredibly transparent, and certainly by contrast, the president has not, both in terms of health records, but also let's look at taxes. We now know, because of great investigative journalism, that Donald Trump paid $750 in taxes. When I first heard about it, I literally said, "You mean $750,000?" And it was like, no, $750.
That was a nice
We now
line she
know Donald
prepared.
Trump owes
I missed it.
and is in debt for $400 million. And just so everyone is clear, when we say in debt, it means you owe money to somebody.
You know who doesn't pay
and
taxes?
It'd be really good to know
Billionaires.
who the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, owes money to, because the American people have a right to know what is influencing the President's decisions. And is he making those decisions on the best interest of the American people, of you, or self-interest? So, Susan, I'm glad you asked about transparency, because it has to be across the board. Joe has been incredibly transparent over many, many years.
Has he?
The one thing we all know about Joe, he puts it all out there. He is honest, he is forthright.
Honest, Joe?
But Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been about covering up everything.
Thank you, Senator Harris. I want to give you a chance to respond, Vice President.
Well, look, I respect the fact that Joe Biden spent 47 years in public life. I respect your public service as well.
Thank you.
But the American people have a president who's a businessman, he's a job creator, who's paid tens of millions of dollars in taxes, payroll taxes, property taxes. He's created tens of thousands of American jobs. And the president said those public reports are not accurate. And the president's also released literally stacks of financial disclosures the American people can review just as the law allows. But the distinction here is that Joe Biden, 47 years in public service, compared to President Donald Trump, who brought all of that experience 4 years ago.
Thank you, Vice
and
President.
turned this economy around by cutting taxes, rolling back regulation,
Thank you.
Cutting taxes for who?
Fighting for free and fair trade, and all of that's on the line if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
You know, that's a good segue into our third topic, which is about the economy. This has been another aspect of life for Americans that's been so affected by this coronavirus. We have a jobs crisis brewing. On Friday, we learned that the unemployment rate had declined to 7.9% in September, but the job growth had stalled, and that was before the latest round of layoffs and furloughs in the airline industry at Disney and elsewhere. Hundreds of thousands of discouraged workers have stopped looking for work. Nearly 11 million jobs that existed at the beginning of the year haven't been replaced. Those hardest hit include Latinos, Blacks, and women. Senator Harris, the Biden-Harris campaign has proposed new programs to boost the economy, and you would pay for that new spending by raising $4 trillion in taxes on wealthy individuals and corporations. Some economists warn that could curb entrepreneurial ventures that fuel growth and create jobs. Would raising taxes put the recovery at risk? And you have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
Thank you. On the issue of the economy, I think there couldn't be a more fundamental difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
Yeah, you gave us Donald Trump.
Joe Biden believes you measure the health and the strength of America's economy based on the health and the strength of the American worker and the American family. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who measures the strength of the economy based on how rich people are doing.
Oh, really?
Which is
Joe
why
Biden
he passed a tax bill benefiting the top 1% and the biggest corporations of America.
Did Bernie just
leading
come
to
and possess her?
a $2 trillion deficit that the American people are going to have to pay for.
Where's my thank you Bernie sign?
On day one, Joe Biden will repeal that tax bill. He'll get rid of it. And what he'll do with the money is invest it in the American people.
Oh, really?
And through a plan that is about investing in infrastructure, something that Donald Trump said he would do. I remember hearing about some infrastructure week. I don't think it ever happened. But Joe Biden will do that. He'll invest in infrastructure. It's about upgrading our roads and bridges, but also investing in clean
get that
energy
thank you
and
Bernie
renewable
sign.
energy. Joe is going to invest that money in what we need to do around innovation. There was a time when our country believed in science.
He's giving out a little smirk.
And invested in research and development so that we were an innovation leader on the globe. Joe Biden will use that money to invest in education. So, for example, for folks who want to go to a 2-year community college, it will be free. If you come from a family that makes less than $125,000, you'll go to a public university for free. And across the board, we'll make sure that if you have student loan debt, it's cut by $10,000.
College will be free?
That's how Joe Biden thinks about the economy, which is about investing in the people of our country.
That's actually a good thing.
As opposed to passing a tax bill, which had the benefit of letting American corporations go offshore to do their business.
Where's the bill?
Where's the bill?
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, your administration has been predicting a rapid and robust recovery. But the latest economic report suggests that's not happening.
Good job, Susan.
Should Americans be braced for an economic comeback that is going to take not months, but a year or more? You have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
When President Trump and I took office, America had gone through the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. Because when Joe Biden was vice president, they tried to tax and spend and regulate and bail our way back to a growing economy.
Are you kidding me? Obama was
President
the
Trump cut
deregulator
taxes
in chief.
across the board.
What are you talking about?
Despite what Senator Harris says, the average American family of four had $2,000 in savings in taxes. And with the rise in wages that occurred, most predominantly for blue-collar, hard-working Americans, the average household income for a family of four increased by $4,000 following President Trump's tax cuts. But America, you just heard Senator Harris tell you, on day one, Joe Biden's going to raise your taxes.
All right, I have to tell somebody.
It's really remarkable to think, Susan. I mean, right after a time where we're going through a pandemic that lost 22 million jobs at the height, we've already added back 11.6 million jobs because we had a president who cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, fought for free and fair trade, and secured $4 trillion from the Congress of the United States to give direct payments to families, save 50 million jobs through the Paycheck Protection Program. We literally have spared no expense to help the American people and the American worker through this.
Come on, Pat.
Joe Biden and Kamala
We
Harris
got $1,200
want to raise
and
taxes.
people didn't even get
they want
that.
to bury
Get the
our
hell outta
economy
here.
under a $2 trillion Green New Deal, which you were one of the original co-sponsors of in the United States
Only for
Senate.
political reasons.
They want to abolish fossil fuels and ban fracking, which would cost hundreds of
I wish they wanted to do
of
that.
American jobs all across the heartland. And Joe Biden wants to
Joe
go back
Biden
to
just
the
say-
economic
I'm not banning
surrender to
fracking.
China. That when
He
we
just
took
said
office,
he's not banning
half of our
fracking.
international trade
I would
deficit was with
automatically say
China
no matter
alone.
what, I am banning
And
all
Joe Biden
fracking
wants to
if I'm
repeal all of
president.
the
No matter
tariffs
what, we will
that
not
President
be- I will
Trump
not
put
let
into
anybody
effect to
frack.
fight for American
I don't care how
jobs
many
and
jobs it
American
costs.
workers.
I don't
we'll
give
Joe
a
Biden
frack.
says
I don't
democracy's
give a
on the
frack
ballot.
about it. No,
Make no mistake
fracking.
about it,
You're not
Susan.
fucking with our water anymore.
The American economy, the American comeback is on the
That's it.
ballot with 4 more years of growth
Thank you,
and
sir.
opportunity,
Thank you,
4
Vice
more years
President.
of President Donald Trump. 2021
Thank
is
you,
going
Vice
to be the
President
biggest
Pence.
economic year in the history of this
Hashtag
country.
MAGA.
Thank you, Vice President Pence. Senator Harris.
Look at her
Well, I
stupid
mean, I
face.
thought we saw enough of it in last week's debate, but I think this is supposed to be a debate based on fact and truth. And the truth and the fact is, Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000
He said
a
he's going to
year.
repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, it'd
I'm speaking.
be important if you said the truth.
Good job, Kamala.
Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that he's going to repeal the
going
Trump
after
tax
Republicans
cuts.
who hate Trump.
That was tax cuts that gave the average
Look at her,
working
she's
family
losing it right now. Come on, Kamala.
$2,000 in a tax break every single year.
That is,
Senator,
that is
that's the math.
absolutely not true. That
Is he
tax
only
bill-
cutting? Is he only going to repeal part of the Trump tax cuts?
If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then
Please.
have a conversation.
Yeah, I mean,
okay?
yeah, it's her
Please.
turn.
Okay.
Okay.
Joe Biden will not raise taxes on anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that.
Oh,
Joe
you lost
Biden
the left.
is the one who,
You just lost the
during
left.
the Great Recession, was responsible
That's a bunch of malarkey, fam.
for the Recovery Act that brought America back. And now the Trump-Pence administration wants to take credit when they
Kamala
rode
reiterated,
the
you guys,
coattails
that they're
of
not
Joe
banning
Biden's
fracking.
success for the
Just in
economy
case you
that they
thought
had at the
there was a
beginning of their
possibility.
term. Of course, now the economy is a complete disaster. But Joe Biden, on the one hand, did that. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who has reigned over a recession that is being compared to the Great Depression. On the one hand, you have Joe Biden, who was responsible with President Barack Obama for the Affordable Care Act, which brought health care to over 20 million Americans and protected people with pre-existing conditions. And what it also did
They just stand
is it
behind
saved
fucking
those
bad
families.
They're
policies.
who
going
otherwise were
after-
going
They're
bankrupt
going after
because of
Republican
hospital
voters.
bills they could not afford.
They're literally going
They're
after
so
moderate
stupid.
Republican
You have
voters.
Donald Trump, who's in court
How many
right now,
people is that,
trying
like
to get
10?
rid of,
Thank you, Senator
trying
Harris.
to get rid of the
Susan.
Affordable Care Act,
Susan.
which
Susan.
means that you will
Susan.
lose protections if you have pre-existing conditions. And this is very important,
Susan.
Susan.
Yes,
and it's
but we
important
need to give Vice President.
I'd just like to, he interrupted me, and I'd like to just finish, please. If you
Good
have
job,
a
Kamala.
pre-existing
Give a
condition,
thumbs up for that one.
heart disease, diabetes, breast cancer, they're coming for you. If you love someone who has a pre-existing
It's
condition,
Thank
they're
you, Senator
coming
Harris.
for you. If you are
Nonsense.
under the age of 26 on your parents' coverage, They're coming for you.
Senator Harris, thank you.
You're
Let
welcome.
me give you a chance to respond.
Well, I hope we have a chance to talk about health care because Obamacare was a disaster. The American people
It
remember
is a
it well.
disaster.
President
This
Trump and
is
I have
why
a
you
plan
push Medicare for
to
all,
improve
not
health care and
fucking
protect
bullshit.
pre-existing conditions for every
They're pushing Medicare
American.
for all. No
But look,
fracking.
They're not
Senator
pushing
Harris,
Medicare.
you're
No, I mean,
entitled to
they're
your own
pushing no
opinion, but
Medicare
you're
for
not
all. They're
entitled to
pushing
your
Affordable
ACA,
care,
excuse
yeah.
me. They're
You
pushing
yourself said on
fracking.
multiple occasions when
What
you
else
were
are they
running
pushing?
for
I'm missing
president
something else.
that you would ban fracking. Joe Biden looked at a supporter in the eye and pointed and said, I guarantee that we will abolish fossil fuels.
He
They have
never
a $2 trillion
freaking said that. I
version of
wish
the Green
he said
New
that.
Deal, Susan. The
I
Earn newspaper
wish.
USA Today said, really wasn't that very different from the original Green New Deal.
Like,
More taxes, more
is your
regulation,
tactic here? Make them
banning
look like
fracking,
Marxists? I wish.
abolishing fossil fuel, crushing American energy, and economic surrender to China is a prescription
China.
for
Oh, we had to bring
economic
in
decline. President Trump and I will keep America growing. The V-shaped recovery that's underway right
they're
now
obsessed
will
with this
continue with
V-shape.
4
It's a
more years of
K-shape.
President Donald Trump. In the White House.
Thank you very, very much, Vice President Pence. Once again, you've
No.
provided the perfect segue to a new topic, which is climate change. And Vice President Pence, I'd like to pose the first question to you. This year, we've seen record-setting hurricanes in the South. Another one, Hurricane Delta, is now threatening the Gulf. And we have seen record-setting wildfires in the West.
Yeah, Kamala.
Do you believe,
She wore her little
as the
combat
scientific
boots
community has
for the
concluded,
photo op?
that man-made climate change has made wildfires bigger, hotter, and more deadly,
gonna blame the
and have made
forest
hurricanes
care
wetter, slower, and more damaging?
You gotta
You
rake
have 2
the
minutes
forest.
Yes.
uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you,
Beautiful,
Susan.
beautiful.
Well, first, I'm very proud of our record on the environment and on conservation.
Who are you?
According to all of the best estimates, our air
you
and
here all
land are
night,
cleaner
Pence? This
than
is fun.
any time ever recorded. And our water is among the cleanest in the world.
No, it's not.
And just a
No, it's
little while
not.
ago,
Their
the president
water's
signed the
brown.
Outdoors
What are you
Act, the
talking
largest
about?
investment in our
we
public
keep
lands
fracking.
and public parks in 100 years. So President Trump has made a commitment to conservation and to the environment. Now, with regard to climate change, the climate is changing. But the issue is,
I'm sorry.
what's the cause?
What is
And what do we do about it?
Here it is.
President Trump has made it clear that we're going to continue to listen to the science. Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would put us back in the Paris Climate Accord. They'd impose the Green New Deal, which
They
would
don't
crush
wanna impose the
American
Green New
energy,
Deal.
would
That's why I'm
increase
not
the
voting
energy
for them,
costs
you
of American
nuck.
families in their homes, and literally
It's like
would
they're
crush
playing on
American
their
jobs.
field.
And
You know what
President
I'm saying?
Trump and
It's
I
like they're
believe
denying stuff
the
they should be
progress
taking the
that we
opposite
have
position
made
of.
Yeah.
And
in
they're
a
like, no,
cleaner
that's not true.
environment
We don't
has
want to
been
defund the
happening
police.
precisely
We don't want to stop
because
Neither
we
of
have
these
a
people wanna
strong
win.
free market economy. You know, what's remarkable is the United States has reduced CO2 more than the countries that are still in the Paris Climate Accord, but we've done it through innovation. And we've done it through natural gas and fracking, which, Senator, the American people can go look at the record.
Frack some more,
know Joe
America.
Biden says otherwise now, as you do, but the both of you repeatedly committed to abolishing fossil fuel and banning fracking.
It's like he
and
just
so
doesn't
by
listen to
creating
the
the
It's like
kind of
saying no.
American
I would be like,
innovation,
yes.
we're actually steering
I'm
toward a
going
stronger
to.
and better
If I
environment.
become
Embrace
president,
it.
The wildfires,
we're going to ban
President Trump and I believe that
fracking.
forest management has to be front and center, and even
mean, the American
Governor
young
Gavin
youth
Newsom
has to
from
be
your state has
disgusted at this.
agreed we've got to work on forest management.
I need a sign
And with
that
regard to
says
hurricanes,
They said that your
National
laughter is making the
Oceanic
big-
Administration tells us that actually, as difficult
you.
as they are,
Thank you, Vice President.
there are no more hurricanes today than
Thank
there
you.
were 100 years ago.
Thank you.
But many of the climate alarmists
President
use
Pence, I'm sorry, your time
hurricanes
is up.
and wildfires to try and
Thank
sell
you,
their
Vice
bill of
President
goods,
Pence.
the Green New Deal. And President Trump and I are going to always put
Thank you,
American
Vice
jobs and
President
American
Pence.
workers
First, even if it
first.
kills the planet.
Senator Harris, as the
We're gonna
Vice
give you a
President
job
mentioned,
even
you
if the planet blows
co-sponsored the
up.
Green New Deal in
Poor
Congress.
pink dog.
But Vice President Biden said in last week's debate that he does not support the Green New Deal.
Yeah.
But if you look at the Biden-Harris campaign website, it describes the Green New Deal as a crucial framework. What exactly
when they
would be
want
the
to.
stance
They
of a
escape it
Biden-Harris
when they
administration
don't.
They're not really
They're
towards
serious
the
about
Green
it.
New
not
Deal?
serious
You have
on it.
2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. So first of all, I will repeat, and the American people
Oh,
know
there she goes.
that Joe Biden will not ban fracking.
Dude,
That is a
oh
fact.
my God!
That is a fact.
In case you missed it,
I will
ladies and gentlemen.
repeat that
She repeats.
Joe Biden has been very clear
He-
that
he
he
has.
thinks about growing jobs, which is why he will not increase taxes for anyone who makes less than $400,000
Which is
year.
like
Joe Biden's economic plan, Moody's, which is a reputable Wall Street firm, has said will create 7 million more jobs than
Anybody
Donald
who makes
Trump.
under 400,000 and
And
not
part
messing
of
with
those
it.
jobs that will be created by Joe Biden are going to be about clean energy and renewable energy. Because you see, Joe understands that the west coast of our country is burning, including my home state of California.
Oh, there she goes.
Joe
you go.
sees what is
have you done
happening
about it?
on the Gulf states, which are being battered by storms.
spoke out again.
Joe
Gavin
has
Newsom
seen and
doing that.
talked with the farmers in
permits
Iowa,
left and right.
whose entire
they're for
crops have
fracking.
been destroyed because of floods. And so Joe believes, again, in science. I'll tell you something, Susan. I served, when I first got to the Senate, on the committee that's responsible for the environment. Do you know this administration took the word science off the website?
Are
And
we
then
really
took
going
the
to focus
phrase
on that?
climate change
That's a
off
Kamala
the website.
Harris attack. It's a
We have seen a
feckless,
pattern with this
baseless,
administration, which is
stupid
they don't
attack.
believe
Let's
in
focus
science.
on words.
And
not on-
Joe's plan is about saying we're going to
focus
deal
on
with it,
words,
but
not
we're also going to
policy.
create jobs.
Yep.
Donald Trump, when asked about the wildfires in California, and the question was, you know, the science is telling us this, you know what Donald Trump said? Science doesn't know. So
see
let's
the
talk
face she
about
gave?
who is prepared to lead our country over the course of the next 4 years on
the
what is an
signs are done.
existential threat to us as human beings. Joe is about saying we're going to invest that in renewable energy. It's going to be about the creation of millions of jobs. We will achieve net zero emissions
What's
by
that?
2050, carbon neutral by
terrible, huh?
2035. Joe has a plan.
Well, we have to
This
talk
has been a
about
lot
this
of
because
talk
this
from
is
the
something
Trump
serious here. Right
administration,
here.
and
The
really it has
Democrats,
been to go
with all
backwards
these Bernie
and
people
forward.
who are
Going
Medicare
We'll
for
also
all, the
re-enter
Green
the
New Deal,
climate
they're
agreement
They're
with
telling you in
Biden.
your face they're not
Senator
going to do
Harris
it.
just
No
said
Green
that
New Deal.
climate
I'm not
change
going to
is an
ban
existential
fracking.
threat.
I'm going to
She
protect the
repeated it
HGN.
four
President Trump,
times.
do you believe that
I mean,
climate change poses
your two
an
biggest freaking
existential
topics, and they're
threat?
throwing it away like it's nothing. They
As I
should be
said, Susan,
embracing the
climate
thought
is
of
changing.
banning fracking.
We'll follow the science. But
You don't follow
once
science.
again, Senator Harris is denying the fact that they're going to raise taxes on every American. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last
So
week.
Why are you
Bullshit.
still
On
trying
day
to frame them
one,
as
he was
left,
going to repeal the
like
Trump tax
left-wing
cuts.
nuts when they're not?
Those
They're
tax cuts
freaking
delivered
Republicans like you.
$2,000 in tax relief to the average family of four across America. And with regard to banning fracking, I just recommend that people look at the record. You yourself said repeatedly that you would ban fracking. You were the first Senate co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. And while
Yes.
Joe
She
Biden
was, but she
denied the
can't
Green
say
New
that it was
Deal,
for
Susan,
political
thank you
reasons.
for pointing out the Green New Deal is on their campaign website.
is hilarious.
And as USA Today said, it's essentially the same plan as you co-sponsored with AOC when she submitted it in the Senate.
Ooh.
And you just heard the senator say that she's going to resubmit America to the Paris Climate Accord. Look,
Is that a
the
terrible
American
thing?
people have always cherished our environment. We'll continue to cherish it. We've made great
We really
progress
have it, though.
reducing CO2 emissions through American innovation and the development of natural gas through fracking. We don't need a massive $2 trillion Green New Deal that would impose all new mandates on American
would actually be
businesses
really helpful.
and American families.
Thank you.
Joe Biden wants us
Thank
to
you, Vice
retrofit
President, yes.
4 million
Thank you, Vice
American
President,
business
yes.
buildings. It makes no sense. It will cost jobs. President Trump
Thank
is
you,
going to
Vice
put
President,
America
yes.
first. He's going to put jobs first, and we're going to take care of our environment and follow the science.
Thank
But
you, Vice
you know, on the
President.
issue of jobs,
Senator Harris.
let's talk about that. The Vice President earlier referred to, as part of what he thinks is an accomplishment, the president's trade
lose it,
war with
Kamala.
China. You lost that trade war. You lost it. What ended up happening is because of a so-called trade war with China, America lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs. Farmers have experienced bankruptcy because of it. We are in a manufacturing recession
America
because of
lost
it.
jobs on that because
And
of
when we look
neoliberalism
at where
from
this
the Obama
administration
years
has
with the
been,
TPP.
there
No,
are
from the Clinton
estimates that
years.
by the end of the
Into
term of this administration, they will have lost more jobs
TPP and
than
NAFTA
almost
screwed
any other presidential administration. And the American people know what I'm talking about. You know.
Yeah, we do,
I
but you're
think
wrong.
about 20-year-olds. You know, we have a 20-year-old, a 20-something-year-old,
Johnny,
who
I'm
are
thinking
coming
about
out of
you.
high school and college right now, and you're wondering, is there going to be a job there for me? We're looking at people who are trying to figure out how they're going to pay rent by the end of the month. Almost half of American renters are worried about whether they're going to be able to pay rent by the
They're
end
not
of the
paying rent.
month. This is where the economy is in America right now, and it is because of the catastrophe and the failure of leadership of this administration.
Thank you, Senator Harris.
Sure,
Vice
back to
President Pence, let me
Susan.
give you just 15 seconds to respond, because then I want to move on to
Well, I'd love to respond. Look, lost the trade war with China. Joe Biden never fought it. Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China through over the last several decades. And again,
I'm giving it a thumb
Senator
up,
Harris,
though.
you're entitled to your
They're
opinion. You're not entitled to your own
tying
facts.
them.
When Joe Biden
Now
was
with
vice
the
president,
freaking
we lost
China.
Communist
200,000
China.
manufacturing
Joe Biden
jobs.
wants to send
And
more
President
ships to
Obama
China.
said they were never coming back. He
To
said
South
we needed
China
a
Sea.
magic wand to bring them back. In our first 3 years after we cut
Thank
taxes,
you, Vice
rolled back
President
regulation, unleashed American energy, this administration saw 500,000
Thank you, Vice
manufacturing
President
jobs
Pence.
created. And that's exactly the kind of growth we're going to continue to see as we bring our nation through
Thank you, Vice
this
President
pandemic. But a
Mr.
Green New
Thank you,
Deal, your
Vice
massive
President
new
Pence.
mandates, your Paris
shaking her
Climate
head
Accord,
no.
it's going to kill jobs this time, just like it killed jobs.
I'd like
Susan,
to-
I just need to respond very briefly,
15
please.
seconds, and
Thank
then
you.
we'll move
Thank
on.
you.
Thank you, Susan.
Joe Biden is responsible for saving America's auto industry, and you voted against it. So
Joe
let's
Biden
set
is
the
not
record
responsible
straight.
for saving
Thank you.
America's auto.
I'd like to
industry.
talk about
What are you talking
China.
about?
bailout?
We have,
Was it
as
part
our
of the
next
Obama bailout?
topic,
I think it was.
we
part
have
of
no
the
more
Obama, yeah.
complicated or consequential foreign relationship than the one with China.
Oh, here
It
we go.
is a huge market for American agricultural goods. It's a potential partner in dealing with climate change in North Korea. And in a video tonight, President Trump again blamed it for the coronavirus, saying China will pay. Vice President Pence, how would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Competitors, adversaries, enemies? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
Well, before I leave that, let me speak to voting records if I can. You know, everybody knows that NAFTA cost literally
There he
thousands
goes.
of
He was
American
going for
factories
it.
to close. We saw automotive
give him
jobs
a
go
yes on
south
that.
of the border. President Trump fought to renegotiate NAFTA.
Yeah,
And the
he
United
put something
States
that was
Mexico
basically
Canada
the same
agreement is now the
freaking
law of
thing.
the land. American people deserve to know Senator Kamala Harris was one of only 10 members of the Senate to vote against the USMCA. It was a huge win for American auto workers. It was a huge win for American farmers, especially dairy in the upper Midwest. But Senator, you said it didn't go far enough on climate change, that you put your radical environmental agenda ahead of American auto workers and ahead of American jobs.
Kamala's
I
a
think the
radical,
American
then
people
what the
deserve to
hell
know
am
that.
I?
Is probably why Newsweek magazine said that Kamala Harris was the most liberal member of the United States Senate in 2019. More liberal than Bernie
She's
Sanders.
on top cop,
more
you
liberal
moron.
than any
Jesus
of the others
Christ, what the hell?
in the United
No.
States Senate. So now, with regard to China,
Most liberal.
look, Susan, first and
Jesus, you
foremost,
must be like an Antifa communist.
China is
Monster.
to blame for the coronavirus.
China is to blame.
And President Trump is not happy about it. He's made that very clear, made it clear again today. China and the World Health Organization did not play straight with the American people. They did not let our personnel into China to get information on the coronavirus until the middle of February. Fortunately, President Trump, in dealing with China from the outset of this administration, standing up to China that had been taking advantage of America for decades in the wake of Joe Biden's cheerleading for China, President Trump made that decision before the end of January to suspend all travel from China. And again, the American people deserve to know Joe Biden opposed President Trump's decision to suspend all travel from China. He said it was hysterical. He said it was
Thank you, Vice
xenophobic.
President Pence.
But President Trump has
Vice President
stood
Pence,
up
your
to
time is
China.
up.
We're going to continue to stand strong.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
We want to improve the relationship, but we're going to level the playing field, and we're going to hold
Vice President
China
Pence.
accountable for what they did to America with the coronavirus.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked the Vice President.
Watch this.
How would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Are we competitors, adversaries, enemies? You'll have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I'm very interested in this one.
Susan, the Trump administration's perspective and approach to China has resulted in the loss of American lives, American jobs, and America's standing. There's a weird obsession that President Trump has had with getting rid of whatever accomplishment was achieved by President Obama and Vice President Biden. For example,
Here's your thumb.
they created within the White House an office that basically was responsible for monitoring pandemics. They got rid of it.
Not true.
There was a team of disease experts that President Obama and Vice President Biden dispatched to China to monitor what is now predictable and what might happen. They pulled them out. We now are looking at 210,000 Americans who have lost their lives. Let's look at the job situation. We mentioned before the trade deal, the trade war, they wanted to call it, with China. It resulted in the loss of over 300 manufacturing jobs and a manufacturing recession, and the American consumer paying thousands of dollars more for goods because of that failed war that they called it. Then let's talk about standing. Pew, a reputable research firm, has done an analysis that shows that leaders of all of our formerly allied countries have now decided that they hold in greater esteem and respect Xi Jinping, the head of the Chinese Communist Party, than they do Donald Trump, the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief of the United States.
We really had to get
This
in
is
the
where we
communist
are
stuff
today
in there,
because
didn't we?
of a
The anti-China.
failure of leadership by this administration.
Senator Harris,
That
we've
was
seen
such a
changes
lame
in
answer.
Yeah, that
the
was
in the
terrible.
role
She's
of the
terrible
United
on foreign
States
policy.
in terms of global
Terrible.
leadership over the past 4 years. And of course, times do change. What's your definition?
talking about
We've seen strains with China, of course, as the Vice President mentioned. We've seen strains with our traditional allies in NATO and elsewhere. What is your definition of the role of American leadership in 2020?
So, you know, Joe is, I love talking with Joe about a lot of these issues. And, you know, Joe, I think he said it quite well. He says, you know, foreign policy, it might sound complicated, but really it's relationships. So just think about it as relationships.
Oh,
And
my
So we know
God.
this in our personal and professional relationships. You got to keep your word to
Joe
your
Biden
friends.
is a
Got to be loyal to
rock
your
to
friends.
lean on
People
when
who've
it comes
stood
to
with
foreign
you,
policy.
got to stand with them. You got to know who your adversaries
This is
are
hilarious. This is
and
so
keep them
sad.
in check. But
Keep
what
them
we have
in
seen
check.
with Donald
you see
Trump
that warmongering
is that he has
language
betrayed
right there.
our
Keep
friends
them in check, people.
and embraced dictators around the world.
Oh, there we
Let's
go.
take, for example,
Dictators
Russia.
around the world. You neocon.
So, Russia, I serve on the
Neocon.
Intelligence
Oh.
Here she
Committee.
comes.
of the United
Conspiracy
States Senate.
theory. Shut her down.
America's intelligence community told us Russia interfered in the election.
America's
of
intelligence
2020.
community just
No.
declassified
2020.
documents, you freaking liar.
Christopher Wray, the director.
That it was a
Look at
conspiracy
Pence. Look at
theory.
Pence.
Said the
He's
same.
waiting. He's waiting.
Listen to the
But
spooks.
Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief of the
God,
United
they're a
States
bunch
of
of
America,
spooks. All of them.
prefers to take
Spooks.
the word of Vladimir Putin over the word of the American intelligence community.
Oh my Jesus Christ!
You look
Stop
at
talking
our
about my
friends
boyfriend
at NATO.
Putin.
He has
It's his
walked
birthday
away
today, damn
from
it.
agreements. You can talk. Look at the Iran nuclear deal, which now has put us in a position where we are less safe because they are
She's
building
all
up
over the place with
what
foreign
might end up
policy.
being a
She is
significant
awful
nuclear
on foreign policy.
arsenal.
Awful.
We were in that deal, guys. We were in the Iran nuclear deal with friends, with allies around the country. And because of Donald Trump's unilateral approach to foreign policy, coupled with his isolationism, he pulled us out and has made America less safe. So, Susan, it's about relationships.
Susan?
And the thing
Poor
that has always been
Susan.
part of the strength of our nation, in addition to our great military, has been that we keep our word. But Donald Trump doesn't understand that because he doesn't understand what it means to be honest.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice
Watch
President
this.
Pence, let me give you a chance to respond.
Well, thank you. Well, President Trump kept his word when we moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel. When Joe Biden was vice president, they promised to do that, and they never did. We've stood strong
Joe
with
Biden said
our
he was a
allies,
Zionist.
but we've been demanding. NATO is now contributing more to our common defense than ever before, thanks to President Trump's leadership. We've strengthened our alliances across the Asia-Pacific, and we've stood strong against those who would do us harm. You know, when President Trump came into office, ISIS had captured an area of the Middle East the size of Pennsylvania. But President Trump unleashed the American military.
No, he didn't.
And our armed forces destroyed the ISIS caliphate
No, he did.
and
No,
took down their
we
leader,
didn't
al-Baghdadi,
do anything. That
without
was all
one
fucking
American
Russia and
casualty.
Assad. Get out of here. No.
Al-Baghdadi was responsible for the death of thousands. But notably, America's hearts today are with the family of Kayla Mueller, her parents of which are here with us tonight in Salt Lake City. Today, 2 of the ISIS killers responsible for Kayla Mueller's murder were brought to justice in the United States. Jihadi John was killed on the battlefield along with the other beetle. The reality is that
He's such a warmonger.
when Joe Biden
They're
was
both
vice
such
president, we had an
warmongers.
opportunity to save Kayla Mueller.
Who created those?
Breaks my heart to reflect
Who
on it, but
created
the
those
military came
jihadists?
into the Oval Office, presented
Why
a plan.
can't the Convo Couch ask these
Said they knew where
questions?
Kayla was.
This is
Baghdadi
a
had
bad
held her for
mistake here from
18
me. He
months.
should've went
abused
right
her
after her
for the-
mercilessly
for
before
the-
they
He
killed
For the
is
whole Obamagate
Russia.
stuff and the
When
Russia
Joe
Russia
Biden
stuff.
was vice
stuff.
president, they hesitated for a month. And when armed forces finally went in, it was clear she'd been moved 2 days earlier. And her family says with a heart that broke the heart of every American that if President Donald Trump had been president, they believe Kayla would be alive today.
Thank you, Vice
Look, we
President.
destroyed the ISIS caliphate.
Oh.
And you talk about re-entering the Iran nuclear deal. And the last administration transferred $1.8 billion to the leading state sponsor
Thank you, Vice
of
President
terrorism.
No,
President
man.
Donald Trump got us out of the deal.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
And when Qasem Soleimani was traveling to Baghdad
Thank you,
to do
Vice President
harm
Pence.
to Americans, President Donald Trump took
Thank you,
him
Vice
out.
President Pence.
And America is safer, our allies are safer, and the American people know President Donald
America's
Trump will
definitely-
never have
Thank you,
to
Vice President
take
Pence.
action.
I would like to give Senator Harris a chance to
you,
respond, but
Susan.
not at such great length, because of course there are other topics we want to talk about.
But I would like equal time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
First of all, to the Mueller family, I know about your daughter's case, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What happened to her is awful, and it should have never happened.
Jesus Christ.
And I know Joe
Can you give me
feels
the
the same
throw
way.
up, nausea, me?
And I know
Where's
that
my
President
drink?
Obama
Oh my
feels.
I
God.
told producers
Oh
that I needed
my
my drink and they
God.
never brought it.
But you mentioned
I'm
Soleimani.
quite upset
let's,
about
let's
that.
Start
Oh
there.
my God.
So after the strike on Soleimani, there was a counter strike on our troops in Iraq. And they
She's lost.
suffered serious brain
my God,
injuries. And do you know what
lost.
Donald
You
Trump
guys,
dismissed them
she's
as?
so bad on foreign
Headaches.
policy. We're doomed if these
And this is
either
about
of
a
these idiots
pattern of
become.
Donald Trump's, where he has referred to our men who are serving in our military as suckers and losers. Donald
Go
Trump,
right for the
who
insults,
went to Arlington
not the
Cemetery
policy.
and stood above the graves of
Thank
our
you.
fallen heroes
Thank you.
and said, what's in it
Yes
for
to the
them?
fucking throw. Yes. to
Because
the
of
throw
course,
up, man.
you know, he only thinks about what's in it for him. Let's take what he said about John McCain.
Oh my
A
God.
great-
Oh, we
Oh,
really
you
propping
John
up
McCain.
warmongers.
Really?
We're really propping up
and
warmongers.
Donald Trump
Jesus
says
Christ.
he doesn't deserve to be called a hero because he was a prisoner of war.
Jesus.
Johnny's got
and
that.
this is-
Can you do
this
the
is
Mueller
very
too?
important when you want to talk about who is the current commander-in-chief and what they care about and what they don't care about. Public reporting that Russia had bounties on the heads of American
bunch of malarkey.
soldiers. And you know what a
You're
bounty
repeating.
is?
Oh my
It's
God.
Somebody puts a price on
Why
your
are they even
head
arguing?
and
They
they will
agree-
pay
they're
it if you are
neocons.
killed. And Donald Trump had talked at least 6 times to Vladimir Putin and
She's
never
going
brought up
on
the
and
subject.
on with the Putin
Joe Biden
shit.
would
They
never
all are.
do
They
that.
just
Thank
stay,
you.
they're
Joe
keeping
Biden
the
would-
lie
but
and they're
Joe
staying the
Biden-
lie.
would hold Russia to account for any
Russiagate
threat
is fake.
to our nation's security or to our troops who are sacrificing their lives for the sake
Dude,
of our
she's
democracy and
terrible.
our safety.
Thank you,
This is
Senator
terrible.
Harris. This is such an important issue, but we have other important issues as
No,
well.
no.
And
Susan,
I want to make
Pence.
sure we
No,
have a
Pence.
chance
I really have to
talk about.
respond to that.
I'm-
Look, she
Sorry,
has,
Susan.
15 seconds because
Well, I gotta
we're
have
trying
more
to
than
keep.
that. Look.
Well, I'm sorry, but Vice President
Look,
Pence, you've
I-
had more time than
Look,
she's
the-
had so
the
far.
slanders against President Donald Trump regarding men and women of our armed forces are absurd.
I'm sorry, Vice
My
President
son is
Pence.
a captain in the United
Yes.
States Marine Corps. My son-in-law is deployed in the United States Navy. I can assure all of you, with sons and daughters serving in our military, President Donald Trump not only respects but reveres all of those who serve in our armed forces, and any suggestion otherwise is ridiculous.
Thank you, Vice President Pence. Vice
American
President
people
Pence,
deserve, Susan,
Vice
the American
President
people
Pence,
deserve to know.
Vice President Pence, I did not, excuse me,
Susan, the
I did
American
not
people
create
deserve
the
to know
rules for tonight.
Joe Biden.
Your campaigns agreed to the rules for tonight's debate with the Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm here to enforce them, which involves moving from one topic to another, giving roughly equal time to both of you, which is what I'm trying very hard to do.
Go right ahead.
So I want to go ahead and move to the next topic, which is an important one, as the last topic was, and that is the Supreme Court. On Monday, the Senate Judiciary Committee is scheduled to open hearings on Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court. Senator Harris, you'll be there as a member of the committee. Her confirmation would cement the court's conservative majority and make it likely open to more abortion restrictions, even to overturning the landmark Roe v. Wade ruling. Access to abortion would then be up to the states. Vice President Pence, you're the former governor of Indiana. If Roe v. Wade is overturned,
here we go.
what would you want Indiana to do? Would you want your home state to ban all abortions? You have 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
Well, thank you for the question, but I'll use a little bit of my time to respond to that very important
Oh my God,
issue.
he won't even say it.
The American people deserve to know Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general, was responsible for the death of hundreds of American service members.
Oh my God, this
When
is
the
so-
opportunity came, we saw him
know
headed
which
to
is more of a
Baghdad
neocon.
to kill more Americans. President Trump didn't hesitate. And Qasem Soleimani is
Nobody
gone.
was going to kill Americans.
But you deserve to know that Joe Biden
Jesus Christ.
and Kamala Harris actually criticized the decision to take out Qasem Soleimani. It's really inexplicable, but with regard to Joe Biden, it's
They were actually
explainable.
not criticizing it
Because
that
history
much. They were
records that Joe
actually in
Biden
agreement.
actually opposed the raid against Osama bin Laden. It's absolutely essential that we have a commander-in-chief who will not hesitate to act to protect American lives and to protect American service members, and that's what you have in President Donald Trump. Now, with regard to the Supreme Court of the United States, let me say President Trump and I could not be more enthusiastic
Oh God.
about the opportunity to see Judge Amy Coney Barrett become Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Now, she's a brilliant woman, and she will bring a lifetime of experience and a sizable American family to the Supreme Court of the United States.
That's a good one.
And our hope is, in the hearing next week, unlike Justice Kavanaugh received with treatment from you and others, we hope she gets a fair hearing.
I'm ashamed.
And we particularly hope that we don't see the kind of attacks on her Christian faith that we saw before.
Christian faith?
I mean, the Democrat chairman of the Judiciary Committee before, when
Separation of church
Judge
and
Barrett
state.
was being confirmed for the Court of Appeals, expressed concern that the dogma of her faith lived loudly in her. Dick Durbin of Illinois said that it was a concern. Senator, I know one of our judicial nominees you actually attacked because they were a member of the Catholic Knights of Columbus, just because the Knights of Columbus holds pro-life views and
Thank you.
pro-marriage views.
Thank you, Vice President
So
Pence. Your
my
time
hope
is
is
up.
that when the hearing takes place,
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
that Judge Amy Coney Barrett will be respected,
Thank you,
treated
Vice President
respectfully,
Pence.
voted and confirmed
Thank
to the
you.
Supreme Court of the United States.
Senator Harris, you're the senator from and former Attorney General of California. So let me ask you a parallel question to the one I posed to the Vice President. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want California to do? Would you want your home state to enact no restrictions on access
Thank you,
to
Carla
abortion?
Vasquez.
And you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan.
I
First
made
of
my
all,
first live
Joe
tweet.
Biden and I are both people of faith, and it's insulting to
I'm
suggest
scratching my eyes out.
that we
Hashtag
would
debate night.
knock anyone for their faith. And in fact, Joe, if elected, will be only the second practicing Catholic as president of the
Second
United States.
Kennedy. Congratulations.
On the issue
Oh,
of this,
my
of this
Lord.
nomination. Joe and I are very clear, as are the majority of the American people. We are 27 days before the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And, you know, before, when
27
this
days,
conversation has
Johnny.
come up, you know, it's been about election year or election
7
time.
days.
We're literally in an election. Over 4 million people have voted. People are in the process of voting right now. And so Joe has been very clear, as the American people are. Let
have
the
had Bernie
American
Sanders
people
come and argue.
fill that seat in the White House, and then we'll fill that seat on the United States Supreme Court.
How the
And to
hell
your
are these
point,
people
Susan,
allowed?
The issues
these
before us
people
couldn't be more
to represent
serious.
them on
There's
the
the
left.
issue of choice.
How are we
and
allowing
I will always fight
this
for a
right
woman's
now?
right to make a
This is
decision
pretty
about her
disgusting. This is
own body.
awful.
It should be her decision and not that of Donald Trump and the Vice President, Michael Pence. But let's also look at what else is before the court. It's the Affordable Care Act. Like, literally in the midst of a public health pandemic.
Why don't you embrace Medicare for
when
all?
over
Oh,
210,000 people have died
The
and
money's
7
good.
million people
Money's too
probably have what will be in the future
They're
considered a
standing behind
pre-existing
failed
condition
policies.
because
They
you
just keep
contracted
repeating it,
the
repeating
virus.
it, repeating it.
Donald Trump
And
is
the
in
other
court
ones
right now
calling
trying to
them
get rid of the
radical left, even
Affordable
though they're
Care
standing
Act.
behind.
And I said it before, and it bears repeating. This means
Is this real? Are we
that there
living
will
in
be
a
no more
simulation?
protections
I
if they
wonder.
win
Redneck
for people with
economics says this
pre-existing
debate makes me
conditions.
wish I could abort
This
myself.
means that over 20 million people will lose your coverage.
I just can't.
It
Soleimani
means that
was
if
killed
you're
by Roe
under
v.
the age of
versus
26, you
This
can't
this
stay on your
debate
parents'
makes me want to
coverage
abort
anymore.
myself.
Same.
And here's the thing.
Hashtag same.
The contrast couldn't be more clear. They're trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. Joe Biden is saying, let's expand coverage. Let's give you a choice of a public
Thank you,
option
Senator.
or private
No, he's
coverage.
not even saying that.
Let's
He's
bring
not
down
even
the
giving
premium
you
not
a
even
public
giving you a
option.
public
Medicare
option.
eligibility to
He is
60.
not.
Thank you,
That's a
Senator. That's
fucking
true
lie.
You
That's
know,
a bunch of malarkey.
you
That's the
mentioned,
only reason why Kucinich
earlier,
won that thing. He
Vice
goes, give me
President
the
Pence
public
said the
option.
president was committed to maintaining protections for people with pre-existing conditions. But you do have this court case that you are supporting, your administration supporting, that would strike down the Affordable Care Act. The president says, President Trump says that he's going to protect people with pre-existing conditions, but he has not explained how he would do that. And that was one of the toughest nuts to crack when they were passing the Affordable Care Act. So tell us specifically, how would your administration protect Americans with pre-existing conditions to have access to affordable insurance if the Affordable Care Act is struck down?
Well, thank you, Susan. But let me just say,
Thank you, Susan.
addressing
Susan,
your
thank
very
you.
first
Thank you, Susan.
I couldn't be more proud to serve as vice president to a president who stands without apology for the sanctity of human life. I'm pro-life. I don't apologize for it. And this is another one of those cases where there's such a dramatic contrast. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support taxpayer funding of abortion all the way up to the moment of birth. Late-term abortion. They want to increase funding to Planned Parenthood of America. Now, for our part, I would never presume how Judge Amy Coney Barrett would rule on the Supreme Court of the United States, but we'll continue to stand strong for the right to life. When you speak about the Supreme Court, though, I think the American people really deserve an answer, Senator Harris. Are you and Joe Biden going to pack the court if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed? I mean, there have been 29 vacancies on the Supreme Court during presidential election years, from George Washington to Barack Obama. Presidents have nominated in all 29 cases. But your party is actually openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years, if you don't get your way. This is a classic case of if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules. Now, you've refused to answer the question. Joe Biden has refused to answer the question. So I think the American people would really like to know, if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed at the Supreme Court of the United States, are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
I'm so glad we went through a little history lesson. Let's do that a little more. In 1864...
Well, I'd like you to answer the question.
No, Mr. Vice President, I'm
Please,
speaking.
for a
I'm
chance.
speaking. Okay. In 1864, one of the, I think, political heroes, certainly of the president, I assume of you also, Mr. Vice President, is Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham Lincoln was up for re-election, and it was 27 days before the election, and a seat became open on the United States Supreme Court. Abraham Lincoln's party was in charge not only of the White House, but the Senate. But Honest Abe said it's not the right thing to do. The American people deserve to make the decision about who will be the next president of the United States, and then that person can select who will serve for a lifetime on the highest court of our land. And so Joe and I are very clear. The American people are voting right now, and it should be their decision about who will serve on this most important body for a lifetime.
Thank you,
And
Senator
the American
Harris.
people, Susan, are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
Let's talk about packing.
You once
Come
again
on.
gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
Trying to answer you
the
now.
American people deserve a straight answer. And if you haven't figured it out yet, the straight answer is they are going to pack the Supreme Court if they somehow win this election. Men and
Mr.
women,
Vice President,
I got to tell you,
think
people across this country, if you cherish our Supreme Court, if you cherish the separation of powers, you need to reject the Biden-Harris ticket. Come November the 3rd, re-elect President Donald Trump, and we'll stand by that separation of powers in a 9-seat Supreme Court.
Yeah, let's talk about packing the court then. Let's talk about the
Please.
fact. Yeah, I'm about to. So the Trump-Pence administration has been, because I sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Susan, as you mentioned, and I've witnessed the appointments for lifetime appointments to the federal courts, district courts, courts of appeal. People who are purely ideological, people who have been reviewed by legal professional organizations and found to have been not competent, are substandard. And do you know that of the 50 people who President Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments, not one is black? This is what they've been doing. You want to talk about
You came right in time for her identity politics.
Did she
All right,
do
thank
it?
you. Thank you, Senator. Let's
They're
go on
talking
and
about
talk
packing the
about
courts
the issue
and
of
she's bringing
racial
up identity
justice.
I just want the record to reflect she never answered the question.
Oh!
But
Thank
maybe
you.
the next debate, Joe Biden will answer the
Thank
question.
you.
But I think the
Papi.
American people know the answer.
Thank you, Vice President. In March, Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old emergency room technician in Louisville, was shot and killed after police officers executing a search warrant in a narcotics investigation broke into her apartment. The police said they identified themselves. Taylor's boyfriend said he didn't hear them do that. He used a gun registered to him to fire a shot, which wounded an officer. The officers then fired more than 20 rounds into the apartment. They say they were acting in self-defense. None of them have been indicted in connection with her death. Senator Harris, in the case of Breonna Taylor, was justice done? You have 2 minutes.
I don't believe so. And I've talked with Breonna's mother, Tamika Palmer, and her family. And her family deserves justice. She was a beautiful
Are you
young
going
woman.
to defund the police?
She had as her life goal to become a nurse, and she wanted to become an EMT to first learn what's going on.
Don't say her
out on
name
the
unless you're
street,
going to defund the
so she could
police or
then
bring about solutions.
become a nurse
Kamala.
and save lives.
Freaking
and her life
hypocrite.
was taken unjustifiably and
It's
tragically
disgusting
and
that you can
violently.
even talk about
And
this
it just-
shit,
it-
what
it
she's done
brings
to
me
people in the fucking
to-
state of California.
Yep.
You know, the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that America witnessed, during which an American man
I'm telling you, she's an actress.
was tortured
You want to bet
and
he
killed
mentions the crime bill?
under the knee of an
She's got to.
armed, uniformed police officer. And people around our
Playing to people's
country
emotions and empathy.
of every race,
God, these people are
of
psychopaths.
every age, of every gender, perfect strangers to each other, marched shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm,
I mean, I would feel nauseous
Fighting.
right about now.
While you guys were
for
talking
us
about
to
law and
finally
order, just
achieve
like
that
Trump
ideal
was.
of
Say you're
equal
not gonna
justice
defund the
under
police.
law.
Right.
And I was a part of those peaceful protests.
Oh, you
Oh,
were.
you were.
And
Oh.
I believe strongly
There's such a
that,
thing as
first of
peace.
all, we are never going to condone violence.
There
but
we go.
Always must fight
There it is.
for the values that we hold
We're never
dear,
gonna condone violence,
including
we
the
must
fight
fight
to achieve our ideals.
Values.
And that's why Joe Biden and I have said on this subject, look, and I'm a former career prosecutor. I know what I'm
we
talking
know.
about. Bad cops are bad
We
for good
know,
cops.
Kamala.
We need reform
We know.
of our policing in America and our criminal justice system, which is why Joe and I will immediately ban chokeholds and carotid holds. George Floyd would be alive today if
That
we
should
did
already-
that.
no, he
we
wouldn't.
will
That should have
require
already
a
been banned.
national
Do you know what the
registry
crime bill did? As
for
soon
police
as it went
officers
in,
who
it
break the
immediately
law.
banned
We
Pell
will, on the
Grants
issue of criminal
for,
justice reform,
prisoners in your jails.
get rid of
So therefore,
private
you
prisons
punish the prisoners
and
in jail.
cash
You
bail,
didn't even let them
and
get
we will
education.
decriminalize marijuana, and
Thank
we
you.
will
Inmate
we will
charges for
expunge
crack
the
cocaine
records
higher
of
than
those
they
who
were
have
for
been
regular
convicted
cocaine.
of
Because crack
marijuana.
cocaine
This is
targets
a time
who?
for leadership
Black
on a
Americans.
tragic issue
Senator Harris,
of
your time is
unarmed
up.
black people in America who
Thank
have been
you, Senator
killed.
Harris. Vice President Pence, let me pose the same question to you. In the case of Breonna Taylor,
He's going to call her
was
Antifa
justice
and
done?
all this other shit.
You have 2 minutes
just can't
uninterrupted.
deal. I can't.
Well, our heart breaks for the loss of any innocent American life.
I can't even
And the
hear
family
him.
of Breonna Taylor has our sympathies.
He's so weird. He's so
But
weird.
I trust our justice system.
Oh,
A grand
really?
jury that refused the evidence. And it really is remarkable that as a former prosecutor, you would assume that an impaneled grand jury looking at all the evidence got it wrong. But you're entitled to your opinion, Senator. I think.
Really?
Look, and with regard to George Floyd, there's no excuse for what happened to George Floyd. And justice will be served. But there's also no excuse for the rioting and looting that followed. I mean, it really is astonishing.
Really
Flora Westbrook is with us here tonight in Salt Lake City. Just a few weeks ago, I stood at what used to be her salon. Was burned to the ground by rioters and looters. And Flora is still trying to put her life back together. And I must tell you, this presumption that you hear consistently from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that America is systemically racist.
Presumption.
And that, as Joe Biden said, that he believes that law enforcement has an implicit bias against minorities.
Joe Biden said law and order.
Is a great insult.
This is insane.
To the men and women who serve in law enforcement. And I want everyone to know who puts on the uniform of law enforcement every day that President Trump and I stand with you.
What's that on
And it is remarkable that,
there you go.
that when Senator Tim Scott tried to pass a police reform bill, brought together a group of Republicans and Democrats, Senator Harris,
Is it a fly?
you got up and walked out of the room. And then you filibustered Senator Tim Scott's bill on the Senate floor that would have provided new accountability, new resources. Look, we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement, improving public safety, and supporting our African-American neighbors and all of our minorities.
What is on
Under President Trump's leadership, we'll always stand with law enforcement, and we'll do what we've done from day one, and that is improve the lives of African-Americans.
Thank you, Vice President
unemployment, record investments in
Pence, your time
education,
is
and we'll
up.
fight for school choice for all of our minorities.
Thank you, Vice
I'd
President.
like to respond.
Senator Harris.
I will not sit here and be lectured by the Vice President on what it means to enforce the laws of our country. I am the only one on this
yes,
stage
she does.
who was personally prosecuted, everything from child sexual assault to homicide. I'm the only one on this stage who has prosecuted the big banks for taking advantage of America's homeowners. I'm the only one on this stage who prosecuted for-profit colleges for taking advantage of our veterans.
Out, so she's lying.
And the reality of this is that we are talking about an election in 27 days, where last week the President of the United States took a debate stage in front of 70 million Americans and refused to condemn white supremacists.
Not true.
And
Not true.
it wasn't like he didn't have a chance.
You got to work on
He
your
didn't do it, and then he doubled down.
No, not true.
And then he said, when
Did it
pressed,
fly off?
stand back,
It flew off.
stand by.
Like pretty soon it's gone. Watch.
And this is a
No,
part
it's
of
still
a
there.
pattern
Dude, what the hell is that?
of Donald Trump's.
Dude, what the hell is on Pence's head?
He called Mexicans rapists and criminals.
What the hell's on his head?
He instituted as his first act a Muslim ban. He, on the issue of Charlottesville, where people were peacefully protesting.
You're right about all of that.
The
What
need for
are you
racial
guys doing
justice,
about it?
where a young woman was
Absolutely
killed.
nothing.
And on the other side, there were neo-Nazis carrying tiki torches, shouting racial epithets, anti-Semitic slurs. And Donald Trump, when asked about it, said there were fine people on both sides. This is who we have as the President of the United States. And America,
What are
you
you
deserve
doing about
better.
it? That
Joe
is my
Biden
point.
will be a president who brings our country together
Senator Harris.
and recognizes the beauty in our diversity and the fact that we
Senator
all
Harris,
have
thank
so
you.
much more in common than what
Joe
separates
Biden
us.
recognizes
Vice
the
President
beauty
Pence,
and
let
the
me give
diversity.
you a minute to respond.
Mr.
Thank you, Susan. I
Segregation.
appreciate that very much.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
You know, I think this is one of the things that makes people dislike the media so much in this country, Susan,
Susan.
is that you
Andrew
selectively
Yang
edit,
is a
just
fly
like
on Pence's
Senator
head.
Harris
He got-
did,
He beat me to it
comments
by
that
1
President
minute.
Trump and I and others on our side of the aisle make.
Done.
Hashtag
Could've
Pence's
Senator
head
Harris
is gonna be
conveniently
trending.
omitted after
Laura
the
Loomer
president
just
made
pointed
comments about people
from Parler.
on either side
There's
of
a
the
fly
debate
on
over
top of
monuments.
Pence's head.
He condemned the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and has done so repeatedly.
He has it.
You're
not
concerned
on that
that
debate.
he doesn't
He did it, though,
condemn
before.
neo-Nazis.
He did.
President Trump has Jewish grandchildren. His daughter and son-in-law are Jewish.
Don't.
This is a president who respects and cherishes all of the American
She almost
people.
spit with
But you talk
I
about having
almost spit
personally
my
prosecuted
soda water, my bubbly.
grandchildren.
Thank you.
I really need to make this point.
Why don't you
When you
mention
were
mine,
when
though?
you were DA in San
There-
Francisco,
there it is.
when you left office, African Americans were 19 times more likely to be prosecuted for
There.
minor drug offenses
Good
than
job.
whites and
Good
Hispanics. When you
job.
were Attorney
Thank you.
General of California,
Thank you,
you
Vice President.
increased the disproportionate
Hashtag, where's
incarceration
my-
of
Thank you,
blacks
Tulsi
in
sign.
California.
Thank you, Tulsi
You
Gabbard.
did nothing on criminal justice reform in California. You didn't lift a finger to
you.
pass the First Step Act on Capitol Hill.
Shit.
The reality is
Finally, he
your
does
record
something.
speaks
Thank you,
for
Vice
itself.
President
President
Pence.
Trump and I have fought for criminal justice reform.
Thank you, Vice President
We fought for
Pence.
educational choice and opportunities for African Americans, all of our
Thank you,
minorities.
sir.
And we'll do it for 4 more
Thank
years.
you. You know, there is no more important issue than the final issue that we're going to talk about tonight,
Thank
and that is
God.
the issue of the election
But
itself.
Susan, he attacked my record. I would like an opportunity to respond.
Let me give you 30 seconds because we're running out of
I
time.
appreciate that. First of all, having served as the Attorney General of the state of California, the work that I did is a model of what our nation needs to do, and we will be able to do under the Joe Biden presidency.
No.
Our agenda includes what this administration has failed to do. It will be about not only instituting a ban on chokeholds and carotid holes.
Thank you.
Not only,
Thank you, Senator
I would
Harris.
like to go through,
These are points that you made earlier in the hour, and I want to talk about the election itself before we have to.
but I
conclude our
want to talk
debate.
about the connection between what Joe and I will do and my record.
sorry.
Which
Go on.
includes, I was the first statewide officer to institute a requirement that my agents would wear body cameras and keep them on full time. We were the first to initiate a requirement that there would be a training for law enforcement on implicit
Yes.
bias
For
because,
agents.
yes, Joe Biden and I
agents,
recognize
not
that
police
implicit
officers.
bias
And they
does
still don't
exist,
get
Mr.
sheriff's
Vice
department
President,
doesn't have any body
contrary to what you may believe. We did the work of instituting
work. She
reforms
said
that
that
were
last
about
time.
investing in reentry. This is the work that we have done and the work we will do going forward. And again, I will not be lectured by the Vice
Who
President
the hell do you think you
on
are?
our record of what we have done in terms of law enforcement and keeping our communities safe and a commitment to reforming the criminal justice system of America.
Thank you, Senator Harris. And I'd like to pose I'd like you to respond first to the question on our final topic, the election itself. President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the
Both
election.
of them have.
If your ticket wins and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power,
Why are they
what
spitting this
steps
like that?
would you
They
and
were the
Vice
ones who
President Biden
refused
then
to
take?
accept
What would
the
happen
peaceful transfer of
next?
power.
You have 2 minutes.
That's what Obamagate was.
So I'll tell you, Joe and I are, I think, particularly proud of the coalition that we've built around our campaign. We probably have one of
you're
the
proud?
broadest coalitions of folks that you've ever seen in a presidential race. Of course, we have the support of Democrats, but also independents and Republicans. In fact,
really?
7 members of President George W. Bush's cabinet are supporting our ticket. We have the support of Colin Powell, Cindy McCain, John Kasich.
We have the support of Sikhs.
Oh my God.
Proceeds to
generals,
name a bunch
retired
of
generals
Republican
and former
neocon
national security
warmongers.
experts and advisors
Congratulations.
are supporting our
Pro-lifers and Kasich,
And I believe they are
union
doing
busters
that
and
because
Kasich.
they know
Christ.
Colin
that
Powell
Joe Biden
war crimes led us
has
into a
deep,
fucking war.
deep-seated
Fly
commitment
asteroid
to
2020.
fight
Oh
for
my
our
God.
democracy and to fight for the integrity of our democracy and to bring integrity back to the White House. And so we believe in the American people. We believe in our democracy. And here's what I'd like to say to everybody. Vote. Please vote. Vote early. Come up with a plan to vote. Go to iwillvote.com. You can also go to joebiden.com. We have it within our power in these next 27 days to make the decision about what will be the course of our country for the next 4 years. And it is within our power, and if we use our vote and we use our voice, we will win. And we will not let anyone subvert our democracy with what Donald Trump has been doing, as he did on the debate stage last week, when again in front of 70 million people, he openly attempted to suppress the vote. Joe Biden, on the other hand, on that same debate stage, because clearly Donald Trump doesn't think he can run on a record because it's a failed record, Joe Biden on that stage said, hey, just please vote. So I'll repeat what Joe said. Please vote.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Pence, President Trump has several
down to
times
4.
refused to commit himself
All right.
to a peaceful transfer of power after the
Leave it
election.
there with the lid on. I'll be
If
right up.
Vice President Biden is declared the winner and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what would be your role and responsibility as Vice President? What would you personally do? You have 2 minutes.
Well, Susan, first and foremost, I think we're going to win this election.
Susan.
Because while Joe Biden and Kamala Harris rattle off a long litany of the establishment in Washington, D.C., an establishment that Joe Biden's been a part of for 47
No
years,
vote 2020.
President Donald Trump has launched a movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life. And I have every confidence that those same Americans that delivered that historic victory in 2016, they see this president's record where we rebuild our military, we revived our economy through tax cuts and rolling back regulation, fighting for fair trade, unleashing American energy. We appointed conservatives to our federal courts at every level.
Oh, yay.
And we stood with the men and women of law enforcement every single day. And I think that movement of Americans has only grown stronger in the last 4 years.
What does he mean
when you
by
talk
that
about accepting the
movement
outcome of the
Americans?
election,
They're going to take that.
I must tell you, Senator, your party has spent the last 3.5 years trying to overturn the results of the last election. It's amazing.
He went after it.
When Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, the FBI actually spied on President Trump and my campaign. I mean, there were documents released this week that the CIA actually made a referral to the FBI documenting that those allegations were coming from the Hillary Clinton campaign. And of course, we've all seen the avalanche, what you put the country through for the better part of 3 years until it was found that there was no obstruction, no collusion, case closed. And then Senator Harris, you and your colleagues in the Congress tried to impeach the President of the United States over a phone call. And now Hillary Clinton has actually said to Joe Biden that in her words, under no circumstances should he concede the election. So let me just say, I think we're going to win this election. President Trump and I are fighting every day in courthouses to prevent Joe Biden and Kamala Harris from changing the rules and creating this universal mail-in voting that will create a massive opportunity for voter fraud. And we have a free and fair election. We know we're going to have confidence in it.
We do not have free and fair
elections. I believe in all my
election.
heart that President Donald Trump
We do not have fair and free elections.
No, you said if we have.
You
a
know,
free and fair election.
I've written all the questions that I've asked tonight, but for the final question of the debate, I'd like to read a question that someone else wrote. The Utah Debate Commission asked students in the state to write essays about what they would like to ask you. And I want to close tonight's debate with the question posed by Brecklin Brown. She's an 8th grader at Springville Junior High in Springville, Utah. And here's what she wrote. Quote,
I apologize.
When I watch the news, all I see is arguing between Democrats and Republicans. When I watch the news, all I see is citizen fighting against citizen. When I watch the news, all I see are two candidates from opposing parties trying to tear each other down. If our leaders can't get along, how are the citizens supposed to get along? And then she added, your examples could make all the difference to bring us together.
The 8th grader won the debate.
So to each of you in turn, I'd like you to take 1 minute and respond to Brecklin. Vice President Pence, you have 1
minute. Thank God.
Brecklin, it's a wonderful question. And let me just commend you for taking an interest in public life. I started following the news when I was very young. And in America, we believe in a free and open exchange of debate.
Clearly,
and we celebrate that. And it's how we've created literally the freest and most prosperous nation in the history of the world. But I would tell you that don't assume that what you're seeing on your local news networks is synonymous with the American people. You know, I look at the relationship between Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the late justice who we just lost from the Supreme Court, and the late Justice Antonin Scalia. They were on polar opposites on the Supreme Court of the United States. One very liberal, one very conservative.
And they were friends.
But what's been learned since her passing was the two of them and their families were the very closest of friends.
Yeah, he was.
I mean, here in America, we can disagree. We can debate vigorously, as Senator Harris and I have on this stage tonight. But when the debate is over, we come together as Americans. And that's what people do in big cities and small towns all across this country. So I just want to encourage you, Brecklin. I want to tell you that
all the problems that we haven't solved.
we're going to work every day to have government as good as our people. And the American people each and every day love a good debate. We love a good argument. But we always come together and are always there for one another.
Thank you,
in
Vice
times of
President.
need. And we've especially learned that
That's a bunch of
through the
malarkey.
difficulties
That's a
of
bunch
this
of
year.
malarkey.
Senator Harris, what would you say to Brecklin?
First of all,
Donald Trump.
I love hearing from our young leaders. And when I
Shut
hear
up.
her words, when I hear your words, Brecklin,
Stupid ass smile.
I know our
You
future is
threaten
bright
truancy,
because
you
it is
friggin-
that perspective on who we are and who we should be that is a sign of leadership and is something we should all aspire to be. And
Where's
that,
the
you know,
dolphin?
that brings
Can
me
we
to Joe.
get a dolphin?
Joe Biden, one of the reasons that Joe decided to run for president
Why?
is after Charlottesville, which we talked about earlier.
There she
It so troubled him and upset him like it did all of us,
Yep.
that there was
That's a
that
bunch of
kind of
malarkey.
hate
Crime building and upset
and
him, though.
division. What propelled Joe to run for president
Right.
was to see that over the
That's
course
good.
of the
Oh my
last
God,
4
I'm
years,
dying.
what
First guy, I'm
Brecklin
gonna build a
described has been
fence,
happening.
And I'm going to make a mile
Joe
long.
has a
That didn't bother me.
long-standing reputation of working across the aisle
I don't want my kids
and working in a
That's a bunch of
bipartisan
malarkey.
way.
That didn't bother me.
And that's what he's going to do as president.
Predators.
Joe
called him
Biden
a
has
racist.
a history of lifting people up and fighting for their dignity. You mean you have to know Joe's story to know
And
that Joe has known
Pence is going to
pain,
respond.
he has known
That's a
suffering,
bunch
Kamala,
of
I have.
malarkey.
Donald
he has
Trump
no
has
love.
a Jewish grandson. What's wrong with you?
And so, Brecklin, when you think about the future, I do believe the future is bright.
I believe Brecklin.
And it
I'm
will be
very
because of
sorry
your
about your
leadership.
future.
And it will be because we fight for each person's voice through their
That's a
vote.
bunch of malarkey.
And we get engaged in this election because you have the ability through your work and through eventually your vote
Thank you.
to
Anita
determine
Hill.
the future of our country
Anita
and what
Hill.
its
That's a
leadership
bunch of malarkey.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Thank you,
you,
Vice
Dolphin.
President Pence. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much.
We want
for
to
the
thank
dolphin noises
also
tonight.
the University of Utah for its hospitality.
I
And
thought that
most
was
of
the last
all, our
question.
thanks to all the Americans who watched this debate tonight. Again, our best wishes for a quick recovery to President Trump, the First Lady,
Miss
and
America
everyone
has more
who is
substantial
battling
answers than-
COVID-19. The
Miss Amer-
second
I'd rather have
presidential
Miss
debate
America's
is next
debate.
week
Thank you.
on October 15th, a
All right.
town hall style debate in Miami.
Cut this
We
one,
hope
Johnny.
you'll
I
join
had
us
enough.
then.
I don't want to hear anything else from her no more. Just get us on. Let's get the wrap up so we can go eat, for crying out loud. Some of the things online I want to point out. I don't know who won our chat for tonight, but one person put that Roe versus Wade killed Soleimani. Thought that was great. Another person said I wanted to abort myself. Deep Space, our friend over there, when Kamala Harris said vote early, he put, and vote often. So that was another fun one. I think the best thing said on stage tonight, or the funniest thing was, despite all of Kamala Harris's BS of just constantly going after Trump, they were like, where were you born? Donald Trump is awful. But when he said, Michael Pence said that Donald Trump has a Jewish grandson. And that's just, that's wrong, Fiorella. But I just want to point out that this is so awful because the fact is that the left is just, I mean, they're trying to out-Trump. They're actually going after moderate to Republican
Because
voters.
they're not the left, they're the Republicans.
They
And
can't-
so
yes.
they're catering to a small sector of Republicans who don't like Trump, which is literally going to make them lose. And I don't know who's worse because Pence had many opportunities to bring up Russiagate and the
Well,
conspiracy theory.
those were the
was,
two
and
parts he
he didn't
missed,
really,
yeah.
he didn't do that.
He towards the end, he kind of mentioned Obamagate and talked about the whole whatnot. He waited, he held it in there. He did go after Kamala Harris with her record at what she did in the
Yeah,
state.
that
so,
was
I mean,
like the one
he did
good thing
a couple
he
times in
really-
the beginning. He went out
Yeah,
a little bit
a
here
little
and there.
bit.
He took his jabs, and really, to tell you the truth, Kamala Harris's words did not really, her jabs did not mean anything because she wouldn't shut up about Donald Trump. She would
Yeah.
never answer the question about what she was going to do.
And-
And isn't it ironic that the progressive left is for a Medicare for all, a
Yep.
Green New Deal, and the
Yep.
two things that we know tonight is that Joe Biden will never ban fracking. He's
Let me
not
repeat
embracing
it again.
Yeah.
Joe Biden will not ban fracking.
He's
okay?
embracing the fossil fuels, whatnot. And even though, and it's funny because Pence tries to attack him, like I would say, fam, I'd be like, yes, I'm going to ban fracking. I'm going to ban all fracking. That's what we need on the left.
We are going to have Medicare for all. Yes, we
and
are.
all she did was push the ACA.
Right.
The ACA.
Defunding the police. No, we don't
we're not
believe
gonna
in
do
this. Like, so where the hell do you stand? You stand for nothing.
Yeah.
You stand for nothing. I mean, this is just another reiteration of the fact that the Democratic Party doesn't know what the hell they're doing. They rely on identity politics. They rely on platitudes. They rely on emotional manipulation. But that's it. That's all they have.
Yeah.
And Pence can literally attack from the left when it comes to Kamala Harris's dismal record on criminal justice, and he did. But I think he could have done a lot better. I think that she kind of was trying to get him with the whole abortion thing and the whole climate change thing. I thought that was a stronger argument. But then, of course, she ruins it with, we're not banning fracking. No, not the Green New Deal. Like, they completely denied it.
We're not going to defund the police. No,
because she couldn't say that they used the Green New Deal to get votes, because that's what they all did. When Bernie Sanders came out there talking about the Green New Deal, they were all like, oh yeah, we're on board with the Green New Deal. We're on board with Medicare for all. Yeah. As soon as they got rid of him, they backtracked out of it. So now they're talking about the ACA. Well, Pence can attack the ACA because it's completely disastrous. It's failed. It's
awful. A lot of people can't afford their premiums. Once again, it's federal mandated insurance. Let me say that again. That was the Democrats' plan. Federal mandated insurance. So first of all, it was Romney Care. So don't kid yourself. You're rocking a friggin' Romney Care plan over here. You're not rocking anything from the left. And the fact is, they don't even know how to spin this. Like, oh, we're not going to ban fracking, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to get rid of this, that. There's no plan there. It's just Donald Trump bad. We're not going to defund the police, but we're going to reimagine the police. We're going to reorganize the police. We're going to restructure the whole system, starting with this, that, and that. No, they're almost comparing themselves to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You know, and then let me tell you something. A couple times, Pence had a chance to do it, like the Russiagate story.
Yeah.
And how bad is Kamala Harris on foreign policy? She echoes the Russia's messing into in our elections. She echoes
that was debunked.
The Bountygate story.
Debunked.
Everything that she's echoing is debunk. And the McCarthyism, like, it's nothing now, fam.
Oh yeah, not even that. Well, she talks about dictators and how we have to go and protect democracy. It's a very warmongering type of way, and we know she wouldn't be in charge of it. It would be the military-industrial complex in charge of it. And Pence is another warmonger that is trying to pretend that Biden has been soft on China when he wanted to send ships to the South China Sea. I mean, these people are awful on foreign policy, and I just want to point out that it's really stupid to see both of them. You have Pence, who's pretending that Kamala and Biden are these communist lefties that are like, they're so far from that. I wish I lived in a world where they were, but they're not. We wouldn't be here like in this situation. And Kamala is pretending that, you know, instead of embracing the progressive policies that would get them all these people to go out to vote for them, they're pretending that they're appealing to Republicans and the suburban intellectual rich moms. And that's it. So they're both missing the mark over here, and meanwhile we're all like, what the hell are you guys doing? This is a shit show yet again.
Zero questions about Assange and Snowden.
Zero. Of course. I mean, we expected that.
Let me give an F to the moderators tonight too for some of their lame ass bullshit
Susan,
questions.
I gotta tell you.
Susan. I mean, he's so calm. He's so, you know what I'm saying? I mean, overall, I think he did a better job than Kamala Harris on the debate. But once again, the place where Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party is coming from is just a losing ticket. They're not the opposition to Donald Trump. They're trying to out-Trump Trump. They're trying to go after that moderate to Republican voter. Mm-hmm. I can't understand. You know, I have a debate tomorrow coming on there. I can't wait. I'm licking my chops, a real debate, because I want to see how this guy is going to justify voting for Joe Biden when I beat him up on every single piece of policy out there, on his own words, because I want to see how this is the lesser of two evil, when you can attack this guy on foreign policy from the left, when you can attack him on criminal justice from the left. This is ridiculous, from civil liberties from the left.
They don't care about civil
liberties. They're awful. And this whole debate tonight was crap, and I got to give it up to Kamala Harris for getting the identity politics in. She did say that Donald Trump did not appoint a black judge. So she did get that one black judge. So she did get her identity politics.
Pence would not address the Roe v. Wade thing. He wouldn't address because you know what? He isn't for it. Like it is dangerous that these theocrats but the Democrats aren't going to pack the courts. They're not. They literally bend over, fold over. They have no spine. They never stand up to anything. They already gave in. They already said they weren't going to do it. But Pence pretends like I don't know how many times they had to say that they're not banning fracking. Pence pretends that he didn't hear that. And it's this whole, it just doesn't make any sense.
Fam, Michael Pence had a radio show, right-wing Indiana radio show for many years.
Is that hell?
You could have been, I would have had somebody sit through that. Michael, you said in 1984 that abortion should be, you should have been cherry picking this. And then you should have had, as soon as you said it, here comes the team releasing it, boom, it's online. It's online. Here's soundbite. Here's soundbite. None of that. Nunsky, zero, zip. The Democrats are not the opposition party to the Republicans that we hoped they would be. They have never transformed into that. In fact, since 2016, they've gotten even further to the right. You can see what's going on the stage right now. So if you want to vote for a Republican or for a Republican, just vote for the real Republican. I mean, seriously, that's what it is, right? I mean, that's what it is right now.
Don't vote for either Republican. Let them know that you're not going to submit to yourself to this charade that they're putting on. Very little policy discussion, very little solutions as to what they're actually going to do. You know, when Bernie Sanders was on stage, when Tulsi Gabbard was on stage, even when Elizabeth Warren was on stage, she had more policy positions than these people. I mean, this is insane. Yeah. It is absolutely it's just an insult to our intelligence. World too. And that 8th grader and The Fly won the debate today.
The Fly won the debate.
Have you guys seen these comments on it?
No.
So Black Atchip Production said Putin sent a fly to give Pence talking points.
The Fly is deep state.
Cyberdoc was like, The Fly was whispering ideas to Pence. Hyper O was like, we said put the bug in your ear, not on. Put a bug in your hair.
That was the highlight of the debate. I'm not even joking.
No, I thought it was Kamala Harris with sending a fly with coronavirus to get Mike Pence infected.
Oh, yeah. What about that stupid shit? Oh, yeah. If Trump makes a vaccine, I'm not taking it. You really want to and he got her on that. So you want to politicize
I mean, that is so stupid. This just shows you. Stupid. No, even if it could save lives, Donald Trump bad. So if Donald Trump tells me to take it, I mean, that was her plan going into it. There is no substance to what you're doing. I don't know how you can go out and vote for these people. Just don't vote for any of them.
Yeah.
And don't vote for the guy, Howie Hawkins, that get lost in the sauce, because he's another one. And say, I'm voting Gloria La Riva, baby.
That's
Dunsky.
right.
Thought about writing in Tulsi, thought about writing in Jesse for other reasons, but I am voting for Gloria La Riva because her foreign policy is beyond the two of these donkeys put together.
Her foreign policy is decades ahead of our time in America, and it's really sad.
Yeah, it is. Johnny, if you were going to convince me to vote for the Democrats today, from hearing what you heard from Kamala Harris, is there any one point that you can take out and say, hey, other than the fact that I was walking with these people in the streets when she wasn't?
Yeah.
I mean,
can
other
somebody
than that,
find a picture
where's the video footage of that?
Yeah.
I mean, literally.
I didn't see her. Yeah. We've been to so many protests.
Yeah.
Where was Kamala?
Yeah.
No, there's nothing. There's nothing, Papi.
No.
I don't think there's nothing there. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's it for tonight. We want to thank you for joining on in.
Yeah, thank you guys for the super chats, and that was hard. That was tough. We wanted to get the hell out. This is disgusting.
I didn't even want to do it.
Yeah.
Dude, they saw something.
I didn't even want to do it.
You're the one who made us do it. You made the CEO decision, said we're going tonight. So I was like, really?
I was like, oh, you guys.
I have Kamala Curry on the menu, and you're like, let's do this.
PYT's covering it, so
listen,
I mean,
we're the debate
more
people.
Interesting
we had to do it. We are the debate people. You guys have been tuning us to the debates. The low numbers tonight aren't because people didn't want to watch us. They didn't want to watch this.
Yeah.
And we understand that and stuff. But still, there was still over 300 people watching us on the YouTube, 30 people watching on the Rokfin, and about 20 people watching on the Facebook. So we had a nice 350-plus audience tonight, and we do appreciate you, all you, everybody who was on the chat tonight having some fun. Glory Jones, Deep State, Cyberdoc.
Thank you to Johnny's Dolphin.
Black Hatchet Production Nights. That was the winner of the debate tonight, Johnny's Dolphin. You got it right here from the Convo Couch. Tomorrow, I have a debate on Uphill Media at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. Pacific. So if you're on the East Coast, you can take out the popcorn late night. You get to go to sleep to me and Josue Garcia going at it to vote for Joe Biden or not to vote for Joe Biden. Obviously, he's to vote, and I'm not to vote.
Really? I thought you wanted to vote for Joe Biden.
He's a Bernie
Biden.
crat.
I would have never understood.
It's happening in his show. You can check it out. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have a really good, deep-hearted,
a beautiful
like water,
debate.
Like water.
You sound like Bernie, not Trump. You need to work on that.
You guys
Trump
like that
is like a
picture.
different, type of.
Look
New
at that
York.
picture right there.
You
man.
look like a different person.
That was my long hair. Like
you look like a vampire.
That was like 3-4
You're
years
pale.
ago. There you go, right there.
Uphill Media, we love her. Oh
my
my
hair
God,
out
that's
there.
scary. Get that off the screen.
All right,
oh my
so
God.
that's tomorrow. That's like,
Happy birthday to Putin again.
Happy birthday, Putin.
Well, it's his birthday here, but in Russia, it's already passed. I sent him something,
Eggplant parmesan from Deep State. Here we go, Cyberdoc. Pasta looks like a scrapper. I'm scrapping tomorrow. So we'll see you there for Pasta Jardula.
Fiorella.
Jonny Tsunami.
Russia.
Peace.